You're good.
Good evening and welcome. I'm going to call to order the Yakima City Council study session of April the 8th, 2025. We'll start with the roll call, please.
Berg,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Byers,
Present.
Decio,
Here.
Glenn,
Here.
Herrera,
Here.
Roy.
Here.
Thank you. We are going to move now into public comment. We will allow 15 minutes for public comment this evening. If you wish to make a public comment, make sure you pick up a slip in the lobby, fill it out, and give it to our city clerk. You'll have 2.5 minutes. When you come to the podium, please give us your name and the city in which you live. The first person for public comment this evening is Ann Knapp.
Thank you. My name is Ann Knapp, and did you want my address?
Just the city you live in now.
Oh, I live in the city of Yakima.
Thank you.
And I'm here to speak about the utility bills. It appears that the property owner is ultimately responsible, and if so, I'd like the city to act in good faith to ensure tenants are billed in a timely fashion and delinquent bills are paid on time. The city has much more power over bills than a property owner over a tenant. The state says in RCW 3521-2174 and in subsection 2 that services furnished for 4 months, charges therefore due or to become due, but not for any charges more than 4 months past due. That's what you can try and put a lien on property for. It appears the city allows liens to be in place for more than 4 months past due, and it allows the city to use an unfiled lien not to exceed 1 year. Lien notices are filed when the lien is made effective for more than 12 months of charges, so it sounds like liens can go on for 12 months or more rather than the 4 months allowed by the state. So I'm asking if this is a violation of state law, and if so, why are you doing this? The city reserves the right to collect delinquent tenant accounts from the property owner. But you can also shut off services, you can do other things. I'm kind of curious what your process is for collecting past due bills. And the 7.50.080 utility service charges references G, which says specific operational guidelines established by the finance department. So I don't know what these guidelines are. I could not find them on the city's webpage. I wonder if you're tracking the frequency of each type of debt recovery used, and when it's used and is against the tenant or the property owner, and the success of the tool. I'm wondering what's the percentage of tenants delinquent versus non-tenants? Is there a difference? What is the cause? Are you informing tenants about payment plans and utility help? I didn't see anything about that on the city's webpage. And you inform tenants that landlords will ultimately be responsible for the bill. If so, that kind of sets landlords up for carrying the bill no matter what. And then there's some other differences on the webpage between the ordinance and what's on the webpage, 750.020 and 750.080. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knapp. Appreciate
Right on
that.
time. I got you.
Next is Ron Torres.
Good evening, I'm Ron Torres. Hello, everybody. Live in Yakima. I'm here again as a citizen to share with you the research Shelley has done into the new Washington State housing laws that eliminate single-family housing. Excuse me. We're following the same path that she took in researching her original concerns about the new laws. She now believes there are 3 legs these new laws stand on, or you might think of the 3 legs as the very visible elephant in the room and the almost invisible 2 giant gorillas also in the room. Tonight we look at the very visible elephant, illegal immigration. Before we do, we want to say that we are not opposed to immigration. As a country, our foundation is composed almost entirely of immigrants. Shelley personally stands on big immigrant shoulders. Her maternal great-grandfather Swenson's cabin, where he raised 11 children, still stands in Mouse River State Park in North Dakota, and her parental grandparents' original tar paper shack still stands on 9 acres of original 1800s homestead land on the Klickitat River. It is impossible to calculate the contributions made to this country without considering the sacrifices made by Native Americans, slaves, and immigrants. So last time we looked at the current population stats that revealed that our country is not suffering from a wave of overpopulation, but from a surprising decline in the U.S. population. Hence, we should have more housing available, but not less. But that is not the case. Therefore, her question at the end of the last population info was, what is being done to combat this severe population decline? The answer has to be one of two alternatives. There are no others. Grow more people faster from birth, number one, which is not going to happen that fast because we have killed over 60 million children in the last 50 years. Number two, we need to import more people from other places. In the United States, our previous administrations chose number two and have made multiple decisions to import people from other places as rapidly as possible.
Mr. Torres? I'm sorry.
That's it. Okay, thank you so much.
Next is Shelley White.
Hi, I'm Shelley White, and I'm here again tonight as a lifelong resident of Yakima, not as a member of the Planning Commission. So what does this immigration wave look like for the U.S. and for Washington State? As a great illustration, turn to the very revealing attached colored chart from Pew Research for a national overview, and it's the last page in your packet, and it looks like this. And I'll let you look at that later because that's really very illustrative. If you then will look at the second page of your packet, you'll see an Office of Financial Management chart estimating Washington's population at about 8 million as of April 1st of this year. This marks an increase of 84,550 residents over the past year alone. That's very close to the current population of the entire city of Yakima. Washington's population growth is largely driven by net migration immigration, both legal and illegal, which has accounted for 82% of the growth last year and more in previous years. It's now estimated that about 13.7% of the state's population are immigrants, totaling about 1.1 million people. That's 10 Yakimas. I could find no information since 2020 on how many of these are illegal immigrants. In 2020, that total of the known illegals was about 300,000. But back to housing. Many people don't realize that non-U.S. citizens can buy property in the U.S. and in this state. They can buy whether or not they have legal documentation permitting them to be here. Yep, you heard that right. Now, anyone in business understands the very simple and very true law of supply and demand. If you have a lot of people who want a product, but don't have much of that product, prices go up. If you have a lot of product and not a lot of people wanting that product, prices go down. Nationally, non-U.S. citizen buyers purchased $42 billion worth of U.S. residential properties from April 2023 to March 2024. Precise data on the percentage of housing in Washington state purchased by non-citizens was impossible to obtain again. Here's the issue with this. According to stats, about half of undocumented immigrants in Washington state live below the federal poverty level, and many more live close to the same. The median sales price of homes in in Washington rose to $649,000 last year, driven by sustained demand and affordability. In Yakima, the average sales price is $389,000.
Ms. White, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Okay, I'll just let you read the rest of it. Okay,
Thank
there's
you.
only one more sentence. So, okay.
That's it? Yep.
Mr. Beeler, is there anyone online who wishes to address the council this evening?
No, Mayor Byers, there is not.
Thank you. Then that ends our public comment session, and we'll now move into the study session items. The first is a declaration for the Arbor Day, a proclamation for Arbor Day will be received by Garrett Brendan of the Yakima Arboretum. Garrett, please come forward. And Councilwoman DeCio is going to read the proclamation.
Whereas in 1827, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees and the holiday, Arbor Day. And whereas Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed through the nation and the world. And whereas the Yakima Area Arboretum in 2000 established the Arbor Festival to encourage an appreciation for trees and nature in the Yakima area, and it has grown to one of the largest Arbor Day festivals in the Pacific Northwest. And whereas trees can lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of the business areas, and beautify our community, trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, I, Janice DCO, on behalf of the City Council, hereby proclaim the second Saturday in April as Arbor Day in the city of Yakima, and recognize the Yakima Area Arboretum's Arbor Festival as the city's official celebration. The city of Yakima encourages all citizens to plant and care for trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated this 8th day of April, 2025.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's great coming back here and seeing you guys and just welcoming the whole community, including you all, to come out to ArborFest. Mayor Byers, I believe I saw you there last year and everything.
before, yeah.
And the year before, and it's just a wonderful event. This year we're talking about the importance of water being in this desert valley. It's a critical issue that we want to make sure that people know more about. It's going to be a great day on Saturday. It's a free family fun day, so make sure not just you guys, but all your family and friends, let them know. Come on out to the ArborFest, get a tree, and we're just so thankful that you're also, supporting and continuing to commit to caring for and maintaining trees in the city. So thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Next on the agenda is a presentation regarding the current status of our city jail, and Commander Davis is here, along with our Chief Boyle, to discuss the situation. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Good evening. Commander Davis is going to take the lead on this. He's the most qualified to give the presentation regarding the jail, but I'll be happy to answer any specific questions you have for me.
Thank you, Chief. I just wanted to introduce myself. I think most of you know me, but my name is Maritza Davis. I'm the commander for the Yakima City Jail. I've been doing it for 29 years, so I know a lot about it. I invited Judge Erin Masters as a guest so she could discuss the connection between the jail and the court and how we work together. I'm going to start with where we're located. A lot of people don't know that we have a city jail, and I like to keep it that way. So we're in the Justice Center, 200 South 3rd Street. We opened again in 1996. Today's a special day because today was the day that we had the first inmate walk through the doors. Oh, wow. So it is actually pretty cool. 72-bed facility. We house male offenders only that have been arrested by the Yakima Police Department. That have been charged with a misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor. Some examples are DUI, shoplifting, DV assault, violation of contact order, criminal trespass, possession of a controlled substance, etc. For a gross misdemeanor, an inmate can serve up to 1 year in the city jail, and we have had somebody there for 3 years because they had multiple charges serving consecutive sentences. So even though it's a short-term facility, somebody can be there long-term. We're open 24/7 and staffed 24/7. So there's officers on duty 24/7, and we accept bookings and do work all day long. We work very closely with the Yakima Municipal Court, City Prosecutor's Office, and the Yakima County Jail. We are one of 4 divisions in the police department. Under Chief Boyle, we have the Criminal Investigations, Patrol Division, Corrections Division, and the Services Division. The jail design is we have 4 general population units. We have basically 4 rooms that houses up to 16 inmates per unit. It's an open living concept where you have 16 beds, 2 big tables, 2 toilets, 2 sinks, and then we have a separate cell that houses any inmates that have special needs as far as needing to be segregated or overflow from the general population. So in the individual cells, we can put somebody that has a need for to be separated for medical reasons, somebody that needs protective custody, for example, somebody who's an informant and doesn't want to be around other inmates. We have 2 holding rooms, and this is important because later on I'm going to discuss why we transfer certain inmates to the Yakima County Jail. So the design of the city jail is pretty important with our limited ability to house individuals. We have a full-time kitchen. We purchase meals from Airway Heights Prison, little TV dinners. We give them extra stuff to go along with that. We have a laundry room and an outdoor rec area where it is open concept, so the inmates are able to get fresh air every day, weather permitting. The jail also has an inmate worker unit, and that is for 8 beds. The inmate workers are in charge of basically cooking and cleaning and doing everything to keep the jail operating. So they work very hard, and in return, we give them extra perks, such as a TV with cable, free access to the kitchen, free access to the outdoor rec. So we also have a visiting room that we use weekly for the inmates. So inmate population, it fluctuates year-long. We're a 72-bed facility, 68 for general pop. Our average pop is about 40 right now. We also have electronic home monitoring that the court allows inmates to, instead of going to jail, they're allowed to do jail basically in their home, and they get monitored by companies. We have had several businesses locally that have opened up their own home detention services, so that does cut the cost of jail incarceration rates. The average length of stay is up 8 days, and that went up from last year. Last year was 7, this year it is up to 8. And so that is, for small jails, having such a short stay, it creates barriers when you want to implement any programming or anything because they don't stay there long enough.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
How much do you think we save with that electronic home detention?
I would have to refer that to Judge Masters. I don't know. I don't have the number. Okay. We did have a home detention program with the city that we closed. And one of the reasons was because so many other providers in the community opened up businesses, and we are not in a position to mandate that an individual enroll in our program. So therefore, if you can't control that, then, people are going to go look elsewhere. But I can follow up with that if you would like.
Yeah, sure. I'd appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. We also have an agreement with the Yakima County Jail. So as I stated, the city jail houses male offenders only. So we pay for a block of 40 beds. So every day we have a block, whether they're filled or not, and we pay $136.48 plus medical services. And that includes all the females, all the males that have other agency holds, and there's quite a few that have either a felony attached to a misdemeanor or a district court charge, Union Gap, Moxie, State Patrol. And so if somebody is being housed for, if a male is being housed for a city charge in another agency, we pay half. So all the costs are fractionalized, including the medical costs. The county jail also houses what we refer to as intensive management inmates, IMI. And those are individuals that require a higher level of medical or mental health care. If they have behavioral conditions, require special housing or treatment as determined by the county jail. The history behind that is back in the day, we would pay, back in 2020, we would pay for inmates based on a monthly average daily population, and it was a sliding scale. So if we had, let's say, 40 inmates, we would pay, 65. If we had, 50 inmates, we would pay less, but because it would be less versus on the population as it increased. But we also had a separate rate for IMI inmates, and that was a lot higher too. And so that raised some issues as far as tracking the inmates, because it was based on how the county determined who was considered IMI. One of the things that we do in the division is we audit all the county inmates to make sure that we are being charged accurately. And that became a struggle because it was hard to determine, okay, this inmate was IMI for 5 days, but then he was in general pop. So the rate would change. And then if you add, multiple agency holds and fractionalizing, it became quite a nightmare, so very difficult to track. So we decided, we had discussions with the county, and we agreed that the city would pay a slightly higher rate for inmates without a limit on IMI. So when we have somebody that, when you hear special housing, it doesn't matter if they're general pop or special housing, we pay for a flat rate. So in 2021 to 2023, we agreed to a block of 50 beds. Again, we pay whether they're filled or not. As you know, COVID hit, so we weren't able to meet those beds. However, the county did not charge us because of that situation. And then in last year, we entered into a new housing agreement from 24 to 28 for another block of 40 beds. And any inmates that we have in excess we pay the same rate, the $136.48 for anybody over that.
I do have a question, if I may. So considering there's 4 separate pods in our city jail, is it possible to construct one of those pods in a way that would be available for females?
Unfortunately, no. When the jail was built in '96, the plan was to house females. What they found was the way the jail was designed, the male pods could look straight into the female pods, and you have to separate. In fact, the inmate worker pod was supposed to be for females, and they could look straight into the shower, so that was an issue.
We put up visual barriers for that?
No, we have never housed females for that reason. So could it happen? Yes, we could if we constructed new extended, pods, but the way it's designed right now, unfortunately, we are not able to. And then the other issue with that too, as it is right now, is you have to have female officers to house females, and right now I'm the only one.
You don't want to be there 24/7?
No.
Come on, Commander.
I love my job, but not that much.
Well, I think it's something we ought to consider longer term. I'm not talking about jumping into anything wrong way, but
I think long-term, yes, we have the ability to, at one point, we were looking at closing the backside of the jail, that street, and expanding and adding more space. Absolutely.
so for some design and construction fees, we
Yes.
could move in that direction.
Yes,
And then
yes.
look at, as it expands, you need more staff anyway, so hiring female staff.
Yeah.
Okay. I just think it's a consideration we had to look at long-term in terms of overall expense, sending 40 people to county jail, if we could keep some of them, the females who are arrested for minor issues like trespassing or open drug use, those kinds of things.
Yes, and ideally, if I have the time left, I would love to see an expansion of the jail where the city can house all the misdemeanor individuals, male, female, special housing, et cetera, and where we could just have full control over our inmate population.
I think the council ought to keep that in mind in the future in terms of bringing it up and looking at the reality or the realistic or possibility of that.
And several years ago, many years ago, they did a study on a jail expansion for the city jail, and the city contracted an architect to come in and do a study, and they looked at basically our average population at the city, the county, the cost, medical, housing, et cetera, staffing. They did a whole study, and so I'm pretty sure that that's somewhere.
The design is still there, right? That's
Lieutenant Bell's
one less fee you had to pay, a designer fee.
Yeah, the report's gotta be somewhere. I have parts of it, but I don't have the whole report. But that was done, I wanna say in 2006, maybe?
So my other question is, and maybe you've already answered this, but we have, if somebody has to be there and treated medically for whatever amount of days, do we have a contract for somebody to come in as needed to provide medical services?
Yes, and I have that info in that slide coming up.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing I was wondering is, how much are we using of all that staffing? Are we pretty much using all those spaces that we're leasing from the jail, or percentage? Or
I'm sorry, you're speaking about the city jail or county?
the county jail?
Yes,
Are we using that full thing? I mean, we're paid for it regardless, right?
yes. We are, we're paying for it regardless, but I make sure that, and I will discuss some of the steps that we take to keep the population low at the county. But yes, we are using the 40 beds daily. And last year we used, we had the contract for the year before we had the contract for the 50 beds, and at that time, we did use them as well.
So I have one more question.
Yeah.
So if we, particularly if we have expansion, but even if we don't, we aren't using all of our beds all the time, would we consider offering bed space to some of the smaller cities in the lower valley for lower level charges?
From the city jail? Yes, absolutely. We average, since COVID happened, the inmate population has taken kind of a change. But last year, we averaged 40 inmates over the daily. And then this year, in 23, we averaged 40, in 24, we averaged 40, and we're on track about the same this year. So if you have, a 72-bed facility, the inmate holding still has to be inmates that are only housed there, but you're looking at an extra 20 beds.
Right.
And the only thing to consider is that this is something we did before. So again, we go back many years. We used to rent beds to Union Gap, to Sela, Moxie, and Titan. We've done it before. It worked well. And then we eventually stopped doing it because the inmate population in our city jail increased so much that we never had space available for them. But again, I reiterate, the inmate population has changed. It's different, and it's going to change again. So, but yes, absolutely. The other thing to consider too is that if we were to enter into agreements with any agencies, that we could only house individuals that are sentenced, or the agency would have to provide transportation services to the court that they go to. Because we don't have the staff to do that in the city jail right now.
But that would be included in their cost, for example?
Yes.
To use space? Okay.
Yeah.
Was that cost effective? Were we losing money, making money, breaking even?
We would be, if we were to house, let's say 20 beds at, let's say $80, just an example, we could generate about a little over $500,000 a year. And I know that, and maybe Chief Boyle can speak a little bit more about this, but I know that there's interest from other agencies locally.
Okay. Thank you for answering my question.
Okay, correction staff testing and training. So at full staff, we have 15 members. I'm the commander, and I also I'm not counted as staffing in the jail because I do office work, the fun stuff.
You don't want to be there 24/7?
No, I kind of am lately, but we have 3 sergeants and 11 officers. Every single one of our staff members are certified through the Criminal Justice Training Commission. It's a requirement, and they attend a 10-week corrections academy, whether it's in Burien, they have one in Spokane, and they have one in Vancouver. Additional training and certifications includes first aid, CPR, AED, firearms, defensive tactics, taser, you have to get tased, I got tased, jail medical, suicide prevention, and FTO certification. Within our own unit, we have instructors for field training officers that are certified. They go through a week-long academy to get certified, and also firearms and taser instructors. And they also partake in the police department trainings as well. They assist with that.
I want to ask the chief, if next time you do the harm reduction plan, are you going to tase the people who attend the academy?
If you sign the waiver, you can. No, we'll probably avoid that part of it, so.
Just wondering.
I forgot to add OC spray. I also got sprayed, but I would rather take the tasing over OC spray.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Some requirements for our job. We have to, and this is just to get the job offer. We have to pass a written exam, physical agility exam, oral board background check, polygraph, psychological, and medical exam. And then if you pass all that, then you may get a notice of hire for a position. Once you get hired, then we put our new hires through what we call a field training officer program, or FTO, and that's about 3 3 to 3.5 months. From the time somebody comes through the door at entry level with Academy, an officer will be deployable, meaning that he or she can count for staffing in 7.5 months approximately. So this takes a long time. And then without the Academy, 5 months. The Academy right now has a backlog. So what we do is sometimes we put him through the field training officer program and then wait for the Academy date. The police, the patrol division does it a little different than we do. But if we have a lateral officer, meaning they're coming from another agency, they're already certified through the Academy, we can put them on the floor ready to work within 3 to 4 months. So lateral officers are very beneficial. They obviously cut costs and time for us, so.
How often do you get lateral officers?
I haven't had one in probably 15 years.
Not often, okay.
Not often, but we're working towards that. We also have to qualify with our firearm annually. That's a requirement of the job. I'll cover some of the core duties, and that is why we're required to carry a firearm. Right now, we're working on 12-hour shifts. Monday through Friday, I have to have 4 officers on duty because we do court duties twice a day. And then outside of those hours, at a minimum, we have 2 officers on duty, and that's 1 officer in what we call the control room, control center, and only 1 on the floor. And that's important, again, because when I talk about the special housing, the limited staffing that we have plays a role in that. Some of the main functions, safety and security, that's our number 1 priority, ensure that the inmates are safe under our care, and that is our number 1 focus. Prevent escapes, prevent assaults on staff, inmate on inmates, respond to any needs, any fire alarms, and then also ensure that the structure of the facility is safe. If there's things get broken, we have to fix them. If there's if there's plumbing issues, we have to fix them. So
Use this for 1 second.
Mhm.
I have to start putting silence your cell phones on screens here.
We process bookings. Anybody, again, we work with our own police department, which is nice because they know our procedures. So they fill out the paperwork, they bring somebody in. If somebody is compliant, from the point the officer brings them through the door, we can have them there in less than 10 minutes. So we gather their personal information, we fingerprint them, take mug shots, ask their medical history, behavior history, log property, search the inmate. We also classify the inmates, so based on their behavior, their medical, et cetera, we put them either in general population or in a segregated cell. And then one of the things that I was going to mention is when you have city jails, and this is a struggle across the street with small jails, is that we have that limited space. So we have the general population units and then the segregated units. But the problem with that one is that you don't have direct observation from the control center. You have to go and do a visual person-to-person check on an inmate.
Is that because we just don't have cameras in there, or?
We don't have cameras. We have cameras in what I'll call the tanks, the rooms, but not in the individual cells. But either way, our staff does what we call, I'm going to speak jail lingo here, head counts. And what that means is that we make an effort to go on the floor and have a person-to-person contact with the inmates every hour. If not every hour, very close to. And that's to make sure that, again, inmate safety. Corrections officers are allowed to pass out medication. That's something that a lot of people don't know. So I'll get to the medical contract that we have here in a little bit, but we get trained by our medical provider on how to pass out meds. We can read the medical sheets, et cetera. And when they get meds in the AM, PM, evening and lights out, then they get their medication. We follow the nurses or the doctors' orders on that. We respond to emergencies quite often, sick inmates, seizures, chest pains, withdrawals, falls, fights, suicidal inmates or attempts. We provide medical attention to inmates. Again, first aid, CPR, we have had to use all those, AED. We take vitals, O2 levels, blood pressure, blood sugar levels, et cetera. So We're pretty busy. The nice thing about our facility is that an officer doesn't just work, let's say, in the big jail, the jail floor, meaning that you only deal with the individuals on your floor. We pretty much do it all. And then we ensure the rights and rules and regulations are followed. We have a very strict discipline policy, so it's kind of getting rearrested while you're in jail if you violate the rules. So if somebody breaks the rules, let's say they start a fight, then you can get disciplined internally, where we have disciplined officers, disciplined hearing officers that will set up a hearing where the inmate can speak on his behalf and say, this is what happened, or I have a witness, etc. And then we determine if they did violate the rule or not. If they do, that can result in loss of good time, meaning they'll be in jail longer. They can be assigned to a segregation room where they will be locked up for 23 out of 24 hours a day. They still get fed, they get everything else, they just have to be separated from everybody else. And then I think that's it on that one. We have, because of the small jail that we have a zero tolerance. Oh, sorry, I was going to mention, we'll also seek criminal charges for certain things, such as if they destroy city property of value, we will contact the city prosecutor's office to see if we can file criminal charges against them. If they fight with somebody else and they cause harm, or if the other inmate wants to press charges, we will seek criminal charges to be filed, which means that they will stay in jail longer. We have a zero tolerance for gang-related issues, and that is something that is explained to the inmates when they arrive. Because we are so small, we don't separate, we don't segregate. So you're expected to get along and to follow the rules, and so overall, our discipline policy works very well. I want to say last year we averaged about 28 cases or so, which is pretty minimal if you think about 14,000 days that inmates served in custody. Yakima Municipal Court, we provide court security Monday through Friday. They have a morning docket at 9 a.m. and then a 13:30 docket. Again, we need the 3 officers to be assigned to the court, 2 in the court, 1 shuffling and 1 in the control center. We pick up inmates from the Yakima County Jail Monday through Friday for both dockets, AM and PM. And when we bring these individuals over, oftentimes they're high-risk prisoners because they suffer from mental illness, substance abuse, or they also have felony charges. A few weeks ago, we had somebody that was in for murder too, and we had a city case that we had to transport. So we have to take precautions and obviously be alert and just pay more attention that day when we have somebody like that. And we do check the inmates that are coming over for court, just so that we know who we're dealing with every day. And you have different classifications at the county jail as well. Somebody can be in minimum security, somebody can be in max security. And so it's a lot to juggle when we're bringing these individuals before the court. On average, we can bring 20 to 30 inmates on some of the heavy days. Yesterday, we had 29 for the day. And then we can have really light days. Some days we can have 10. So it varies. But at any point, we still have to have the staff available because we don't find out what that day will look like until we walk through the door in the morning. Corrections officers process all the legal paperwork. So if somebody gets sentenced, we calculate when they start, when their release date is. If they have good behavior, they get a third of the sentence off. If they misbehave, they lose those days. So we take care of all that as well. We don't have any clerical staff that does that for us. Corrections officers do it all, along with their other duties.
I have a question.
So,
For those county inmates, is it legal in Washington to, if we could Zoom them in to the court?
we tried that. A couple things, I did try to implement video appearances through the COVID time. What we found is the city doesn't have the space to accommodate city inmates because they wanted to have the attorneys present and then the interpreter, et cetera, so it became a struggle, and so that failed. The county was willing to work with us, but we would have to pay for a higher rate for them to accommodate.
For the attorneys going over, or what do you mean by the higher rate? What would?
They would have to hire their own officers to juggle the inmates around and put them before the video. But if I, and maybe Judge Masters can answer to this, I know that recently there's been a decline in Zoom being allowed in a courtroom. So everything is going kind of back to, it's going back to live in person.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, so, but I did try. It didn't really work for us at that time. Okay, so the inmate healthcare, we have a contract with a medical provider. They've been with us for over 25 years. We have 1 doctor and 4 registered nurses that come in. It is a part-time contract. They come in Monday through Friday for up to 4 hours a day, and then they are on call 24/7. And we do use them for after hours as well. They don't have a set schedule. It depends on which nurse comes in and when they can come in and do their daily routine. And we address general health needs, again, high blood pressure, diabetes, seizures, infections, drug, alcohol withdrawals, etc. Medications are ordered through a local pharmacy and they deliver to us as we order. The Kite Med also provides our correction staff annual jail medical training, some basics, and that's why we kind of do more than other jails, is because we rely on our officers to gather some basic medical information so that if they're calling the nurse after hours, they can relay that information so that they can assess what needs to happen with the inmate. In 2024, and I do an annual report for the jail as far as operations, we had 0 grievances filed by the inmates, and that means complaints about how they were treated for medical needs. So again,
When you start looking at this whole system, is it computerized enough where we have an efficient way for you guys to process, or is it being all done by hand, or
as far as
the whole operation of processing inmates and going through all this stuff, is it computerized to an adequate level, or does there need to be more technology?
I think we have the technology that meets our needs right now. Everything, we use the Spillin system for all of our jail records. Everything is stored in that system, and as it is right now, I don't have any requests for anything. The fingerprints are filed electronically. I think we're in good shape when it comes to that. Should I wait? No? Mental health services.
It's his miss.
Mental health services, we do not have mental health services on site. We only have referrals that are sent to them by staff via email. And if we send a referral, then a mental health professional will come to the jail and have a visit with the individual. We do have designated crisis responders that will respond to assess any inmates that are on suicide watch. And then in 2024, we averaged 53 inmates on suicide watch, and that's an increase from the year before we had 40. So we have seen an increase in that. MOUD program, sorry about that. You may have heard about it. It's a pretty popular program. It's medication for opioid use disorder. It's basically for inmates that need treatment for that abuse opioids, and we implemented a program a couple of years ago with our medical provider. The medications that are usually used for this kind of treatment are not allowed in jails, but we have implemented a way to do that. And so if somebody is on a program, is active, and is actually following the instructions and compliance, we will continue them on it. We also allow outside providers to come in and have contact with the inmates if it's for their treatment and for their care. We also have Narcan on the floor available for hopefully not ever, but if we ever need it, it's available for inmates. Municipal court diversion program. We work with the court if there's an inmate in our care that wants to get on a program and get some drug or alcohol assistance. We allow them to come in and do assessments in our facility by appointment. And we have families, visiting for the families, attorneys, professionals, and religious services. I did have a Bible study program available, but that's suspended due to staffing shortages right now.
So one of the things I've kind of wondered about is I've looked at, the state has some obligations to help take care of inmates who have drug use or medical or mental issues. And I don't really see much of a connection, it seems like. Is there any way that you guys can access that service, or are they still not making it available? I know that they were fined hundreds of millions of dollars for failure to comply with that order.
There's been a lot of funding for services like that. The Yakima County Jail has a lot of those services. They have full-on medical, they have mental health providers. And again, because we're a smaller facility, we're kind of limited. So there is funding, and we go back to why we send some of the inmates there. It's because it's so that they can get those services. One of the things we also do is we do presentations for the community. If we have a request for YBC, YB Tech, or YPD Explorers, or anybody else that wants us to present on the field of corrections, we're happy to do it. And that is obviously in hopes that we are going to recruit the young ones to come join us at some point. Some challenges in the field of corrections, substance abuse and mental illness. We have seen an increase in both, and that's really difficult for a small jail to handle. Going back to the mental health, jails have become what we call a dumping ground, and that is the feeling across the state, basically because these individuals are suffering from a mental health crisis, and there's nowhere else to actually, to take them, and so they eventually end up getting arrested and get placed in the jail, which is not the best place for them at times. But that is kind of what we have to deal with right now. These individuals require special housing, which again, with jails, there's limited housing availability because we're very old. Our jail's 30 years old. The county jail, I don't even know, it's gotta be way older.
Ancient.
Yeah, it was in 1984. So, and then they also, inmates with mental health concerns also take up a lot of officer time, and they are very costly to the city. We see that they end up staying in jail for an extended period of time. Oftentimes, the court will, or the attorneys will require or request a competency evaluation or a transfer to Eastern State Hospital for restoration. And those are, again, we're paying a lot for those inmates to get the treatment that they need. And then what we often see is that they may be released tonight, they'll be back in jail tomorrow. Again, because they're just not in a position to care for themselves. And so those individuals end up staying in custody longer, and we end up paying more for them as well.
The folks that get transferred to Eastern State Hospital, how often, or like how many, or?
There's quite a few. I couldn't give you a number right off the top, but there was a huge backlog years ago because everybody was being transported to Eastern, and now what happens is they started coming to the jails. They have opened new facilities so that they are able to accommodate a larger number of individuals that can be assessed. But we still have quite a few. And unfortunately, a lot of them are repeat offenders too. So they may require an eval or a trip to Eastern today, and then in 6 months, they may need another one. So,
Do they do those evaluations remote, or we have to take them there?
most of them are done at the county jail, and right now I don't know what system they're using for the evals. But I do know that they're still doing some transports. I don't think that there are as many, but I don't know if they're doing over Zoom or in person at the county jail. But I can get you that info. I don't know what system they have in place right now. And the same thing with substance abuse. We've seen a high number of inmates. It's pretty insane the amount of individuals that are using fentanyl right now. Fentanyl and methamphetamines are the primary drugs that we use. That we see. I don't use. That we see.
Get that real clear.
I wanted to make that clear.
That's how she can work 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. But we've seen an increase with that. Again, I meet with jail commanders that have jails in the state every couple weeks, and everybody is stating the same thing. About 80% of the individuals that get arrested are under the influence. And again, we deal with the special housing need. Again, they cannot go in general population, so they need a lot of officer time when they're high, and then when they withdraw. And so they take up a lot of officer time, and again, they're a special inmate to handle, and they're a high risk as well.
Do you transfer a lot of those folks to the county at times?
There are some individuals that based on our experience and our contacts with them, we know for a fact that it's going to be a tough inmate to manage, and that they're going to need the 24-hour care. And some of those individuals we house at the county, but we do house some in our facility as well. Same thing with alcohol. If you have an inmate that is, an alcoholic, and the DTs for alcohol withdrawal are pretty severe for certain individuals, and it's individuals like that need the 24/7 care, and that's somebody like that we would move to the county jail.
Do they have a diversion program for those types where they can go into treatment, or?
I think that's kind of part of what the municipal court is working on, is while they're incarcerated, getting them assessed and so forth to hopefully enroll them. And, Judge Masters can probably answer that a little better.
Okay.
One of the things I've been wondering, since the border has been made more secure, has there been any difference that you guys have noticed in the availability or the cost of drugs?
The cost of drugs? No. I don't know. Maybe Chief Boyle knows how much they cost.
Well, because
According
she
to our-
doesn't buy them and use them. So.
Our employees that are working in the task force are saying that there is a rise in the cost of the street drugs that are being sold. There is a price, or the prices are starting to go up.
How often are we catching and convicting people of drug dealing?
We make arrests weekly on that, and then a lot of the time just takes getting through the criminal justice system, and we're indicting people federally if they meet the criteria, as well as state charges. So we have open cases every week.
Do you have a drug dog at the jail at all?
We don't have it in the city jail, but the county does, and they have allowed us to use it. The sheriff's office also has one, and we have brought their dog in as well. So we are able to make a request and coordinate a visit to our jail, and we have done that. Some obstacles in corrections, staffing shortages. Staffing shortages is a major issue, and it's not just us, it's statewide. It's really, there's a high percentage of jails that are understaffed right now. Again, limited resources in the community to take inmates with mental health. The other item is the strip search policy. You can't strip search everybody that comes in, and so oftentimes that's how you end up with drugs in a jail. And then the other thing is body scanners. A lot of jails started putting in body scanners, and then the Department of Health restricted the exposure due to radiation concerns, and so they reduced the amount of radiation, meaning that the clarity of the scan now is less. So it's something that has been going on for about a year. Jails are still looking into finding ways to keep their jails safe so that we don't have any drugs coming in.
Do you have body scanners?
No.
No.
The county jail the county jail had an old one. They purchased a new one. They offered the old one, but that thing was massive. There was nowhere for me to put it. I went and looked at it.
You don't want it in your office?
Maybe next to Chief Boyle. No, it was just really big.
Is that like the airport one?
At the airport is,
Like
yeah.
where you have to stand there? And,
Yeah,
is that what it is?
pretty much. But they have different models, but it's a pretty big piece of equipment. And then with that too, you also need somebody that is going to be managing the scan, et cetera. So,
Might be worthwhile just getting one of those dogs that can do that. Probably be cheaper.
yeah, no kidding.
Less space.
Yeah. Booking refusals, again, I'm pretty sure you've heard about the whole booking refusal, the process, and so I'm going to explain the process and the reason. So, like I said, in corrections, our job is risk management. We do that on a daily basis, with whether it's an inmate that we're taking in or whether it's somebody that we have in custody. By law, we are required to provide them adequate medical and mental health care while they're in our care. So the city jail process is, if YPD arrests an individual, they bring him to the station, a corrections officer goes and assesses the individual. So they will ask them questions just to see how they're acting. They'll ask their medical history, their mental health history. They figure out if they have any prior booking history of concern. And then the corrections officer will determine if that is somebody that we can keep safely in our jail. If so, we bring him in. Again, it's a pretty quick process, and if no, then we refer them to the county jail, where they have the full-time medical services, mental health services, and then they also have adequate staff. So if somebody needs to take a trip to the hospital in the middle of the night, they have the staff to do that transfer where we don't. Some examples of somebody that would be referred to the county jail. Again, anybody that requires a higher level of medical care that we cannot provide, or mental health care that we cannot provide. Somebody that has suicidal history that needs to be supervised continually and in contact with mental health. If somebody has a serious infection, somebody who needs special housing, serious withdrawals from alcohol and or drugs, wheelchair, somebody who's in a wheelchair, cancer, dialysis, recent surgery, somebody who is known to smuggle drugs because they have the body scanner there, or somebody that is known to be assaultive towards staff. And again, because I only have one officer dealing with inmates, it's if somebody is known to assault officers, then I don't want them in our facility. City corrections officers, when they do a referral, they document this to the supervisors, and the supervisor reviews. And obviously, the reason for that is to make sure that they're not just refusing people to refuse them. So we, including myself, we keep a close eye on those refusals. And there are times when we can accept somebody. What we run into often is that they'll make an arrest, they'll bring somebody in, and the individual has an infection. We'll say, hey, I'll take him, but you need to take him to the hospital, make sure that this infection is not of concern, and we will take him. Once they are cleared at the hospital by the doctor, we'll take him. We had somebody just this week with trench foot. I had never heard of that. I had to Google it. Yeah, and so I had to Google it. But anyway, so somebody like that. We called our nurse and said, what do you think about this? What is this? And so she said, yes, take him to the hospital, get him cleared. The officer did that. They brought him back, and then we accepted him for booking.
So the alternative is to let him back out on the street because we don't want to accept the liability?
No, they'll go to the county.
They go to, yeah.
Yeah, they'll go to the county jail. But I will say, there's times when if the county also requires the medical clearance, then the police officer is spending a lot of time at the hospital waiting to be seen. And then obviously sometimes that gets very costly. If an individual is then, sometimes it happens that they may exaggerate their condition, and then it requires a lot more scanning and x-rays and MRIs, and so it gets expensive at times. But yeah, we refer them to the county jail.
I hear the conversations on the street, and they make the argument that if you got a serious problem, go commit a crime and then the state will pay for it. But then you have homeless people that get taken to the hospital and then even over to Harborview to be treated, and it's like, who foots the bill for that? Does the city get the bill?
We pay for anybody that we take. So even if they're at the county jail, when they are in custody at the county, if let's say on day 2 they go to the hospital, we pay for that bill because they are our city inmate, just being housed over there.
There's no way to bill Medicaid, Medicare?
There is, and the county jail has implemented some of that programming. So the costs from the medical costs from years ago to what they are now, they are helping jails right now to alleviate that load because it gets extremely expensive. I've seen bills that come through back in the day for $80,000 for one individual. And so we also have discounted rates with the local hospitals, so that we can alleviate some of that.
Do some of the inmates actually have insurance themselves?
Yes, and again, if we have somebody that requires a lot of attention, they're at the county, and the county is, per contract, is supposed to gather that information, also bill their insurance as well. But, yeah, it's expensive. So what we do to manage our inmate population and reduce costs, since we're on the topic, we do weekly reviews of all the inmates that we have at the county. So we will keep an eye on, hey, who do we have? Why are they there? Oftentimes, if somebody's referred there for medical issues, then once they're stabilized, I can transfer them to the city jail where we will not be paying the county. We'll house them there. We also will request an OR, somebody to be released on their own recognizance if it's a major medical procedure or something that they need. And that will go through the court, and it'll be up to them if they grant it or not. If somebody has a surgery, if an inmate has a surgery, we will request a medical furlough so that they can go take care of their needs if they're going to be hospitalized for days. And it's up to the court if they grant those furloughs or not. We also audit the county bills. Again, it's tracking the fractionalization of charges. It's a lot of work, and we do find some errors. So every year on average, we do identify about 40 to 60,000 in errors that we get credit for. Current Yakima City Jail struggle is corrections officer shortages. Again, that is something that we have, it's a statewide problem, but it is definitely a problem in our jail. It has been an issue since 2021. I'm sure some of you may recall that one of my officers got assaulted and almost lost his life. It took him 2 years to recover from those, and we're very, very, very proud that he's back to work. But then other officers left, and since 2021, I have been struggling to fill vacancies. Other people have left. It got to the point where we had to enter into an MOU with the YPPA, with the Yakima police officers, to come and work jail shifts on overtime because I did not have enough staff to cover. As it is right now, we're working with 50% staff. I'm working back there 5 days a week to keep the place open. We moved people to 12-hour shifts. We're hiring a police officer every day to work with a corrections officer. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of stress, it's a struggle, and it's been going on for way too long. It's been 3 years. So we have 2 officers in training, and again, you heard me speak about how long it takes us to get them on the floor. So hopefully one will be ready in about a month, and then the other one just started his field training officer program on Friday. So he's very new.
What is 50% capacity? Is that?
I have so I have 14 officers, not excluding myself, and then I'm at 7 deployable officers right now.
I think you told me that.
Yes, and then and this obviously the work for my role, I'm the commander, right? I'm supposed to be working in an office, but I'm working as a corrections officer, managing the jail Monday through Friday, and I also oversee the police services division, which is another 17 members in that section. So I stay pretty busy.
I had chief in there with you then.
Well, and we're in the process of a reorganization within the department, which will alleviate some of Commander Davis's duties in the near future. So we'll at least be able to take the services division away from her. I can't help her with the jail as much, and I'd just like to compliment the work that she is doing back there, keeping this running, so.
I will do the same. I've toured the jail.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see, challenges in recruiting corrections officers. It's a demanding job. It's a high exposure to liability. We're responsible for the lives of others. We have to use force, sometimes deadly force. I mean, we never have had to, thank God, but it is part of the job. If required to, we have to carry a firearm. You're at risk of getting assaulted. We get exposed to blood, feces, contagious diseases, and we work 24/7, nights, days, holidays, weekends, and we get mandated overtime. So
Makes us all want to come over there right away.
yeah, most people
Really selling it.
I've been there for 29 years.
I love my job. I love my division. But one of the things too with why it's a challenge to recruit is because there's the difference with, we use public safety testing for posting jobs for police and corrections. So they do it together. So when an applicant applies, they can check the box. I want to test for corrections and police, and they can choose as many agencies as they want. So in a sense, we're kind of competing with ourselves because anybody who sees the difference in salaries with corrections and police, and they pass all those requirements that I went through, will most likely go to the police side. So I've had very, very few come through my division in the last 3 years. To give you an example, I was looking at just a list of new hires. The police department has hired approximately 33 officers in the last 3 years, and I hired 4 and 2 left, one after a month and the other one after 6 months. So it's tough. And it's definitely tough to keep the place open when we're at the staffing levels that we have right now. My guys are exhausted, they're tired. It's been a tough run. We're still there. I mean, I have to give it to them. They work very hard and they have a good attitude. But you know, it's time that something be done about the staffing issue we're facing.
We are grateful.
Yes. Here's some city efforts to fill the vacancies. I can't say that we haven't done anything. We have done things. We increased the vacation accruals for laterals to try to recruit those laterals that, again, I think are very beneficial to the city. We have received none. We eliminated the physical agility test for laterals, so they don't have to go do their sit-ups and push-ups and all that fun stuff. So we eliminated that. We lowered the hiring rate, the hiring age from 21 to 19 and a half at the time of our application, and they have to be 20 at the time of appointment. And I've gotten none come through. In 22, we offered a $5,000 hiring bonus for new hires. In 23, we increased that to $7,500 because, again, we weren't getting anybody. And then last year, we increased it to $10,000. Oh. And again, we don't see that helping. Most likely, in my opinion, it's just the pay, the hourly rate is what people look at. They don't look at the whole, compensation plan. When you hire new people, they are young, they're just looking at how much am I going to bring home, what is my hourly rate, and so.
That would be a bargaining thing?
Yes, it is. That's between the city and the unions. So, yeah, we have taken efforts, we've worked with the city to implement these, and we've received very few results, so.
I could just speak a little bit to that. When I came into law enforcement back in the mid-90s, there was 500 to 800 people testing for police jobs. I actually was there on opening day when we booked our first inmates, and a lot of people started their careers in corrections, and now those that are qualified, like Commander Davis spoke to, if you're qualified and you can pass all the testing processes, you're not having to, if your ultimate goal is law enforcement to be a police officer, there's not necessarily the stepping stone to have to go through anymore because there's so many police agencies that are statewide shorthanded. As she spoke of, corrections are shorthanded statewide. And so we're not just competing, like we're competing with ourselves, and we're also competing against, private sector jobs, et cetera. So it's hard to get recruitment in not only in just law enforcement, but corrections in addition to that, so.
Is it the process that, do we need to, all of these are hiring bonuses and different things like that, and pay obviously is one aspect that you mentioned, but is there something, a hitch in the process as well that is causing this, or is it?
I think qualified applicants is our number one hitch. A lot of people the applicants have done a lot of things between the ages of 16 to 21. As a lot of your younger people, they've made choices that make them unhireable, and we're not going to lower the standards just to fill the shoes or fill the seats in the jail, because what you then run the risk of is potential issues with staffing, things that go on inside the jail. And the corrections, we have a very well-run jail, like she spoke about, very few issues. We don't have the drug problems that are going on in the other jails. And a lot of that is to the professionalism of the people that are working in there. And she has a very dedicated crew. A lot of them are long-term 15, 20-year employees. And unfortunately, a lot of them are getting to retirement age, and we're just not replacing them. We're not seeing the replacements come through that are the younger age that would be willing to stay here 15, 20 years. So.
Do you have a recruiter per se, or is it just HR that does it, or what is the recruiting process?
We're advertising. They go out and, like she spoke about, give presentations on what corrections is, and we try to, even if we have an applicant that isn't, as I'm reviewing backgrounds or just personal history statements, if they're not maybe they've had some things that don't qualify them as police, but we would accept them to move forward in corrections. We'll move forward for them. Some of it's a maturity issue, a lot of times with police officer applicants. So you offer them an opportunity to work in the corrections for a couple of years, mature, and then they'd be more suitable for law enforcement, especially if they're willing to work at their end goal is to work at the Yakima Police Department. We can evaluate that employee over 2 to 3 years, and then when that person comes up in the hiring list, we as the command staff know the work ethic and the product that they put out helps them get hired by our police department. So we try to have those conversations, but unfortunately, there's some people that apply that just don't get past the initial screening or the background process, and it is a pretty long process, but ultimately we have to meet the CJTC, the Criminal Justice Training Commission standards, we have to maintain those processes. And to maintain qualified employees that we're not having issues on the back end inside the correctional facility.
The other piece to that too is that we're competing with the local jails. So we have a big Kittitas County jail, we have a big Yakima County jail, so we're competing with other local facilities.
You think we should just start new officers as correction officers, chief, and then transition them
That works
to
for me.
officers? Well, I'm just saying.
Well, ultimately, that's not really, it sounds great and we used to do that when we had hundreds of applicants. A lot of people would take a position in the jail. In patrol, we have eight vacancies ourselves. And now the Corrections Academy, it used to be a month long, and now it's a 5-month, 4-month,
For corrections?
Yes.
No, it's 10 weeks.
10 weeks. So where the amount of time it takes to get them trained in there, they're there almost a year, which would put them back another year in patrol. So it's, a lot of agencies would do that when they had an inordinate amount of applicants. A lot of sheriff's offices started people in corrections, and they had to work a certain amount of time to get into the policing, but we have vacancies in both skill sets, so.
Commander, where are the trainings for the correctional officers? I know for the police department, like on the west side, but for correctional officers?
What's the training?
Where? Like-
Where? So it's in Buren, same place as
Okay.
the Police Officer Academy, and then they opened up a new academy in Spokane, and then one in Vancouver, Washington.
Okay, I'm just thinking about just turning around as well, you know, you said 10 weeks, I'm like, okay. From
Yeah.
what was it used to be?
Back in the day, it used to be 4 weeks when I went. That was a long time ago, but now it's 10 weeks. And so we just had one of our recruits graduate from the academy, and you know, it's a lot of work there's a lot of responsibility, so I'm glad that they extended it. They have a lot more training that they're providing them, and they're preparing them for the job. But yeah, it's 10 weeks now.
Yeah, and I want to give a quick shout out to Officer Diaz. Last year, she came to Davis to be part of our career panel, so all that outreach, and I believe she'll be at Davis on Wednesday with another yearly career panel, so just talking about what she does, and maybe she can mention different departments as well.
Yes, and one of the things that we have, as I mentioned, we entered into an MOU with the police department, police officers to come work overtime. We have 51 police officers that volunteer to help us out that have been coming in, working jail shifts. So I want to take the time to say thank you very much to them. They have been saving us for 3 years, so it's truly appreciated. And they're great to work with. If anything, we have showed them what we do. A lot of them don't know what we do once they drop off somebody, and now they kind of have a more understanding of everything that we have to work with. So I apologize if I'm going over. I thought I had very few slides.
One other question, you got this $10,000 incentive. Is that when they sign up, or is that after a year of service? Or, I mean, it would seem like that $10,000, we should try and
Or if they
leverage that
stay there.
some way to get them to
Yeah.
finish the training and stay for a little while.
So it's $10,000 incentive. They have to sign an agreement to stay for 3 years. They get $5,000 on their first paycheck after 1 month, and then the other $5,000 when they finish probation after 1 year.
I was thinking about it. You said the new hires want more salary generally, and the older officers, I assume they want more time off.
And who doesn't?
I know. I know.
I think it's a combination of both. I have to give it to my crew. They don't ask for time off because, you know, we don't have the staff.
Is there a way, and I don't know if it's legal, but is there a way we could set up like 2 packages in an agreement somewhere?
Those are better questions for the city manager and the collective
Right.
bargaining teams to be able to answer than on our behalf.
Is that even legal?
think there are better questions later with the bargaining man back there.
Yeah, I mean, we generally don't talk about collective bargaining strategies.
Right, I'm just thinking.
Bronson, welcome. We're glad you came
This issue was
forward.
going to come up.
Yes.
So we do have an ASME group that there are two separate bargaining groups. So when a previous city manager decided to eliminate some benefits, we negotiated with AFSME and we set up two different bargaining units. So that is possible. And that is something that I know that the HR and I don't know if you guys have been involved in those discussions, have thought like, if people want more in wages, we can work with the union maybe to take some benefits away, although that's generally not a good option either, so.
That was the question. Is it even allowed?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
I still like the idea of starting officers there. I think that's great. You gotta get your training wheels off, and work up,
A lot of jails actually do that in other states.
And it helps them know of the whole process.
Yeah.
I think
But I would like them to stay though.
well, yeah.
Maybe they will.
Yeah, I have.
Maybe even temporary is what I'm thinking, just like.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the benefits of having the city jail. Obviously, there's definite benefits. We're able to hold more individuals accountable for their actions. We have limited options besides the Yakima County Jail. Sunnyside is, they don't take any additional housing contracts because they already have enough from the west side. Benton County, they don't take any because of staffing issues, and then Kittitas is the only option. But then you would have to deal with the logistics of inmates.
What's
going
the
to-
cost difference between
Transportation for
Kittitas and?
It's comparable.
Yeah.
It's a little less, but there's a lot of things to consider when you're talking about that. As far as an officer has to drive to Ellensburg to go book somebody, like the cost of going over their winter driving conditions, getting them to court. So it's
not far.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues and a lot of things to consider if that were to ever happen. Again, City Jail YPD work together, expedited booking processes. We manage our inmates. We become familiar with who we're dealing with, which means that we can do our job way better. And then another benefit of having the city jail is that the city controls future prisoner costs, which have increased tremendously over the 10 years, up to 170%. We do have the option of bed rentals. It's something that we could definitely look at to offset the cost at the county jail. And I will give it over to Judge Masters, who's going to talk about the benefits to the court.
Welcome, Judge Masters.
Hello. Nice to see everyone again. So the jail and the court work very closely together. Obviously, the jail is very important and integral to everything that the court does. And a lot of the benefits Commander Davis has already spoke to, but when I think about the ways that the jail and the court works together, I kind of think of it in two ways. One, pre-trial, and then post-conviction. So when we're talking pre-trial, it's kind of when the charges are pending. And before I even get into that, I think it's really important to talk about how, and I know the city manager has talked about this in her presentation, that law and justice were just kind of we're all under the same umbrella. So when you're talking about how the jail works within that, it affects YPD, it affects city legal, it affects the court. So it is a very important part of our law and justice response within our community. But for the court, Commander Davis already talked about how the jail manages the inmates during our in-custody arraignment calendars, which we have one every day, and our status calendars, we have 5 per week. I know Councilmember Berg came and observed an in-custody arraignment calendar after a 3-day weekend. So that was a lively one when I think it had about 30 people on it. So on average, we have between 15 and 20 in-custody people on our arraignment calendars, just depending on when it happens. Mondays are a little bit heavier, a day after a holiday, or if there's some sort of emphasis, you're going to have more people. And the jail is responsible for transporting every single one of them to court. The issue of Zoom came up during COVID. Zoom appearances were used a lot. There's been case law that has come out that says defendants have a right to have their attorney with them in court. So if you're going to have them appear via Zoom, then the attorneys have to be with them or be able to appear in a way that they can have private conversations.
Just
For
give
our
them a phone in the cell with the.
I mean, you laugh, but that is what happened
I'm
during
not-
COVID
I'm
at the
just
county
saying.
jail for some of my clients. I mean, could happen, but the way our court is set up, it's just too complicated to try to work on Zoom. Also, I think it's important for people to come to court and appear in person. Zoom can have a way of dehumanizing someone, and at the end of the day, this is a person who is coming before a court. They're more than just a case, they're more than just a cause number, they're a person, and it's important for them to come to court so that they can also experience court. There's a formality to court, and I think it has an impression upon people when they have to appear in person and talk to a judge in person and have an attorney next to them and just be in that environment. So, but also case laws kind of move towards having people come back in person to court, even Superior Court's having people return. And if we didn't have the jail and everyone was housed exclusively at the county, we would have to transport them over. So you'd be talking about transporting 15, 30 people. You have to separate them by all the things that Commander Davis talked about. So if they're having substance abuse issues, if they have mental illness, you have to separate them by gender. You have to separate them by offense. It's just very complicated. So our city jail alleviates some of that because there's people already classified, they're already being housed, and you can just pull them literally from down the hallway, have them walk down one secured hallway to our courtroom.
Yep.
Also, while the officers are in court, they're security for us. I know we've talked about court security and some of the concerns about that, but the incidents that we have had in court, I talked about the one where someone tried to lunge over the desk at me. The officers were there to able to respond and stop that person and restrain them from reaching the bench. So they do provide a really important security aspect for us, which we need. And then, you know, they do allow us to hold people in custody. There's a presumption of release whenever someone gets arrested, and there's some offenses within the city that we mandatory hold people until the next judicial day. Second offense DUIs, DVs. If you get arrested on those offenses, you're going to be held in custody until you can see a judge, unless with some exceptions. But for the most part, you're going to be in jail, and having the city jail allows those people to actually be held. There's a presumption of release, but there's the factors the court considers when we hold people. Your criminal history, are you a risk to our community? Can we release you and be assured that our community is going to be safe? Do I think you're going to come back if I release you? And so these are all factors that are required under the law that I have to consider when I decide whether or not I'm going to hold someone on bail. And one of the things I don't have to consider is whether or not there's jail space for me to actually hold that person. If we didn't have the city jail and those 40 beds, I would have to think, okay, well, it's a 3-day weekend. It's possible that there's 30 people that are going to get arrested. I think there's 17 people in the city jail right now that have sentences. So if they were at the county jail, that'd be taking up 17 of the 40 beds. So then I'm trying to figure out, okay, can these people be held? Is this an additional thing that I need to consider? Obviously, we always presume on releasing people, but there are some people that need to be held on a certain level of bail to protect the community. So it allows us to prioritize public safety by having the jail. And so that's one of the bigger factors for us. And then also allows YPD to arrest people on certain charges and on bench warrants. Smaller jurisdictions without jails, they issue bench warrants for people who don't appear, and then they get picked up or they get contacted by police. You can't book them on it because there's nowhere to house them. So there really isn't any way to get people to come back to court when they fail to appear. Having the city jail allows that to happen. And then finally, when you're talking post-conviction, it's just another tool in the toolbox for the court to have when it comes to sentence construction at the resolution of these cases. Not all crimes require people to go to jail, and it's not appropriate in every case, certainly. But again, without a jail, we would have to do that balancing. Well, how many people are in jail right now? Do I have the space to put someone in jail? Some cases come with mandatory minimum 6 months in custody. So if they can't do EHM, I have to figure out, is there room, would have to hold someone for that amount of time. So again, that's a benefit to the court when we're talking about the jail. We also can do delayed report dates to allow people to make arrangements so they don't lose their job, they don't lose their housing, and the city jail processes that for us. We set delayed report dates, they'll take them into custody, and we can accommodate that as well.
Well, and having gone to some of the graduations from court, I think having that relationship is important because there's a level of accountability to the person that's working through their time and the services they do, but the support that they get in those situations is I think, very instrumental in having them make different choices to move forward in life, and hopefully you don't have a high rate of recidivism from that, so, yeah.
And I know there was a question about electronic co-monitoring, or there was a comment about the electronic co-monitoring. There are certain charges that you can serve, there's mandatory jail time, for example, a DUI. You can do a day in jail, or you can do 15 days of electronic co-monitoring. Those are mandatory, one or the other. Or if you have multiple DUI offenses, you're gonna be doing 45, 90 days of EHM mandatory. I don't know how many people are on them, but there are certain crimes where most people will do EHM. So a second offense DUI, there's going to be some component of EHM because it's required by law. Driving while license suspended first degrees, those have mandatory minimums. First it's 10, then it's 90, then it's 180 days in jail. If it's your first time at 180 days in jail, the recommendation might include electronic co-monitoring, and that's something the court might consider. DUI probation violations come with mandatory 30 days of confinement. Those people might do 30 days of electronic co-monitoring or more, 60, depending on the recommendation. But I don't know how many are on it right now.
I know when I talk to people that have been to jail, the argument they always like to give is, I paid my debt to society, and I think it's actually just the opposite. When you commit a crime and the legal process and the policing process come into play, they've incurred a huge debt to society, and it's getting almost prohibitive. We need to find some ways to either convince people not to be criminals in the first place, or to incent them to, I mean, locking them up just doesn't have the effect that it used to.
If we can figure that out, we will be rich.
Yeah. Then we'd have money for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Masters. I appreciate it. We're going to end on a good note. So some goals for the division. This is the last slide. Obviously, number one is to fill our vacancies. And then number two is to attain jail accreditation through WASPIC, the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. It's something that I have been looking at for many years. It's a personal goal of mine. I run the jail, and I know that it's attainable. I know that we can do it. It's just a matter of having the timing and getting started. There's 170 standards that have to be met. There's 7 different phases, but I'm pretty confident that it is something that we can attain, hopefully before I retire. So,
what is the benefit of that?
The benefit is increasing public confidence and credibility, intensify administrative and operational effectiveness, reduce risk exposure, and provide state and local recognition of professional competence. And it's just something that our staff in the city can be proud of. I believe so.
Nice.
And the last one, questions.
Questions or comments, council?
We got them all answered.
We've been kind of asking us.
Yeah, we have been, so.
Trying to get you more people.
Commander Davis, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief, thank you. All right. That brings us to discussion item C, which is regarding the process of City Yakima utility billing collection stream. And Annabelle Chavez, our Utility Services Manager, is here to address this. Welcome.
Are you guys ready? Because theirs was a short presentation. Mine's going to be longer.
Oh, no.
Are you threatening us?
It's only 9.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, Vicky, Sarah. My name's Annabelle Chavez, and I'm the Utilities Manager here with the City of Yakima. So I did, well, with following the City of Yakima's utilities mission and purpose of implementing and complying with City Council's policy as described in YMC 7.50, I would like to ask for some of your time to go over the City of Yakima's utility billing collection stream. Let me see if I can get out of hers and go into mine.
You got a tech person right behind you. You asked.
That's you're a hero, yeah.
Yep. And it's not timed, right? No. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So, the City of Yakima does comply with state law and Yakima Municipal Utility Billing, Yakima Municipal Code and Utility Billing. In doing so, I'm going to provide a summary of the steps taken under those laws, and it is not meant to change or supersede any state law or municipal code provision regarding utility billing. Utilities is able to accomplish our vision through accountability, positive customer focus, and helpful staff. Utilities has approximately 33,000 accounts that we bill bi-monthly. Multi-million dollars are billed with each cycle. Out of those accounts, as of last week, we had 860 accounts, or 2.7%, that were eligible for shutoff. So they were defaulting. Of these, 220 approximately were accounts that were late on just their most recent bill. So it wasn't that it's been lingering on that one. We sent about 16,500 bills every month, and we receive about 16,000 payments every month. Let's see, so
about
let's look at,
500 accounts are not paid every month on the average?
on average, I mean, today when I looked at the numbers, it was like 770, but I had already submitted my presentation, so we'll keep it at 860. So, I mean, on average, and I expect those numbers to keep going down significantly. And the rest of my slides are kind of what we're doing toward that. So yeah, let's take a look at it and see where these accounts are coming from, or where it all begins with. So it starts with opening in a utility account. And this is customers needing services within the city. So if a property owner contacts us and tells us that they want service, as soon as we verify that they are the property owner via the county assessor's website or their closing documents, we can open an account in their name at any time. When a tenant requests an account, a little more information is required at that point. The City of Yakima will only open tenant accounts, both residential or commercial, once the property owner has, or their designee has provided a utility bill rental authorization form. Say that fast 3 times. We call it an UBROF in our office, only because a conversation will mention that multiple times, so UBROF, okay? From this UBROF,
Chanting.
yeah, right? UBROF. So in this UBROF, the property owner can opt to receive copies of all of their tenants' bills. So every bill that their tenant receives, they'll receive a copy of it as well. They have to opt into this. However, if they don't want the bills, any late notice that we generate for their tenant, they will receive a copy of it automatically. That's not even an option.
Can we just opt them in anyways?
For other copies of the bills as well,
Yes.
we can, I mean,
I don't know. I'm just thinking, it's their property. They should at least know what's going on every month.
right. Amazingly, a lot of landlords, and they opt not to want any notices or bills.
I know, then they get mad at us when they're.
Right. So that's what we kind of compromise, well, opting or not, let's have them at least the late notice, because the copy of the bill, you don't want it.
Right.
But, you're not going to do anything with it, but at least the late notice, that way you know. And I'll go over the stream that it follows when those late notices and how early on that would be sent to the owners as well. Let's see. Yeah, so it is something though, and I do tell, property owners, please make note, if you are requiring copies of the bills, that would be with every tenant. So it's not it doesn't stay with the house. You would have to be requesting that every time we're opening a new account. Okay? Oops. No? All right. So starting a tenant utility account. So once we receive this authorization form, we can open that new tenant account. When the account is being opened, we do notify the tenant that their landlord will receive copy of all late bills, and if they've opted into receiving copies of the late notice, that they would receive copies of all late notices, and if they opted to receive copies of the bills as well. For all tenants, the City of Yakima does require a security deposit, and it's due within 15 days. For water, sewer, garbage, that deposit is $215.28. That deposit shall be waived with the provisions of YMC 7.50.020 are met. The deposit, if it is paid, it is held on the account for 12 months or until the account closes. Once the account closes, or, the deposit is applied to any final balance that is owing on that account, and if there's a credit left, then we'll mail them a check.
Mail who? Property owner?
The account holder. So that just means there's nothing owing on that property and their deposit covered their final bill.
So if they're there more than a year, how long do you hold the deposit?
So it has to be a year of on-time payment history. So if they've been there 5 years and they haven't had good payment history, the deposit is still on there. And we do still have accounts that the deposit is a lower amount than what it's been for 15 years or so. So yeah, I mean, it's just, and same, when we tell customers also, after you've had the account, let us know, hey, it's been the year. We'll review the account, and if payments have been good and on time, we'll refund it back or mail you a check if there's no balance owing. But we're not monitoring the account to see, oh, you have good payment history, let me give it back. They would have to be requesting that. And when we say that is meaning that they wouldn't have received not even 2 late notices within that year. That would be good payment history for us. All right, so let's see.
Is that written in a policy that all of the employees, all your employees are aware of, so that
Absolutely.
everybody gets the same instruction all the time?
Yep, absolutely. It's also on our website. We have welcome letters that if you open the account in the office, we'll hand you one. If you open it over the phone, we'll mail it. And it's giving you all that, the deposit, or we can waive the deposit. And what it was talking about, the provisions, if customers have had utilities with the city of Yakima and they held that good payment history, we can waive it. Or if someone had Pacific Power in their name for at least the 12 months, and again, asking them for a letter of credit that Pacific Power submits to us that shows good payment history, then we will go ahead and waive that deposit. So the deposit applies if you haven't had utilities in your name with good payment history for at least 12 months.
How often do you waive it? Like,
I would say maybe half of our customers. I mean, if they've had good payment history. Now, if it's someone that they have, had bad payment history with us or left outstanding balances, even if they've been settled, you already created that history with us, so we would still require that deposit, letter of credit from somebody else. I mean, ours or supersede whatever they're providing.
How long has that deposit policy been in effect?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I can get back to you with that one, though.
Also, Annabelle, it depends on how much trouble it is. So I'd like to know the percentage of landlords that sign up to receive the bill.
I can pull that up or try to.
Yeah.
And let me work on that.
her brain was thinking.
Yeah, I'm like, hold on before I say yes. Okay. Perfect. So all accounts in the city of Yakima will follow the same billing cycle collection stream. So what that means is when an account opens, usually the customer is opening in the middle of the billing cycle. So it automatically assigns that cycle. We have 26 cycles that we bill in the city. It assigns that cycle. Your first bill is usually going to be a shorter one because you're not starting right at the beginning of the cycle. So that means it could be 3 weeks, 5 weeks. After that first initial bill, it'll be every 8 weeks that we send you a bill. So how that works is the first bill, it generates and it's mailed or emailed depending on the preference that the customer has set up. 21 days later, that bill is due. So that's by day 21. 7 days later, the late notice is mailed. So now we're at day 28. 7 days later, the first late auto call goes out. And this is where the late notice and the call would go both to the tenant and the landlord. 7 days later, that first late auto call goes out. That's at day 35.
Is at day 28, are the landlords notified they've received a late notice?
By day 20, correct. By day 28, that's when they would have received that. And then they'd receive notice 28, 35, 38, and then, yeah. So 3 days later, that second late auto call goes out. So now we're at day 38. And then 3 days later, the shut-off order generates. So now we're at day 41. So by now, our system is already working on your next bill. It'll go out in 19 days. So
Do you have a lot of auto debits set up where it comes out automatically?
we have a few. I mean, we use our vendor. I don't have the exact number, but we do. And different. We barely launched with them a year ago, and the launch didn't go as smooth as we wanted it to. So, yeah, it really. Oh, you remember that last year? Yeah. So it,
That messed me up too, but yeah.
it's gotten better. I have to give them that much. And I know that, and I've even vetted this through legal. They offer like an incentive to get customers set up on e-bill and auto pay. It cuts, obviously, we're going to get paid, and it cuts down on printing and postage and all that good stuff. So, with all those hiccups we were having, I kind of paused that, but now that it's looking better, knock on wood,
been
I
working
might
great.
bring it back and have them to get more customers to get set up for auto pay. In my signature from my email, any email I send you, I'm always talking about set up your account online, and I mean, it's giving you better access at the end of the day. That way you know what's going on.
So if it's auto pay, can the payment fluctuate month to month depending on the water usage?
Absolutely, right.
So how does the person then, just because they check their bank account?
They
is
get an
that-
e-bill too.
You get an email. Oh yeah. And then it's like you create a profile and you log in and you view your account.
Okay.
And you view if there's a bill due. It tells you the amount. You can make a payment there. It's actually really user friendly. I have to give them that much. But yeah, so the bill will definitely fluctuate depending on your consumption and your usage on that. It is common, and people get so surprised. My bill's the same exact amount. That just means you're consistent. My bill is almost about the same, and when it's not, I'm like, what's going on? Why is it more? Because we're the same people. The usage remains the same. So they are pretty consistent. I mean, you have a leak or you have more people or something, obviously it's going to make the bill go up.
Like ball players in the summer.
Exactly. If you're irrigating with your
Oh, no, it's not the irrigation. They take 3 showers a day.
Yeah, it's hotter, so I agree. So yeah, it'll fluctuate. So you get that. And then when you set up auto pay, it has different ways. You can set it up where the total balance due on the due date, or nope, I want to pay 100 every 10th of the month. So you have different options on how to set that up. It's not just the one fits all. So definitely different ways to set that up. But yeah, if we can get all of our accounts set up on auto pay, I mean, that would be amazing for many different reasons.
I was wondering, why did we decide, I mean, it was probably years ago now, why did we decide, though, to only bill every other month instead of every month?
Well, we actually bill every week. But by the time we go through all of our accounts, it's every 2 months that they get a bill. But we send bills every week we're billing. Yeah. And I know that a couple years, right, it was a long time ago, a couple years back, they were talking about doing monthly billing. I know there were meetings held, but it just didn't go through. But yeah.
If it takes you 2 months to get through the entire billing cycle,
Yeah, they would have to be major changes of condensing even more and having less cycles to bill. Yeah. Okay.
Just budget for it.
Yeah. All right, so, let me see. So as staff capacity and other factors allow it, for accounts with past due balances, following RCW 352.21.300, Section 1, delinquent turnoffs are dispatched, and the water meter is shut off for that customer.
So there's only, over 41 days late, there's nobody over 41 days late, they get shut off.
Once you're at 21 days, you're already past due.
But you shut it off
At 41 days, correct.
And how long has that policy been going?
That has been,
I just asked because that has not been the case from my experience.
let me get into it, why it hasn't been the case, though. I'm not done yet. That comes up actually on the next slide. So when they are shut off, obviously paying the balance in full is going to restore all services. A minimum of 4 months due for water service paid does restore the water service. Now, we can shut off the water, we can remove the garbage can. So when those are removed, it obviously falls a little different, more than just the 4 months. I control shutting the water off, so with refuse department, they do their routes where they remove the garbage cans. I am requesting with them to kind of follow each other. That way, if we show up to remove shut off a meter, refuse is right behind us to remove that garbage can. That way, we are able to collect a little more and get those services restored, all services at that point. Then at that point, we will, for accounts that are eligible, we will offer them a payment arrangement to help them get their account balance caught up. What makes somebody eligible? A customer can enter into a payment arrangement if within 12 months they break 2 arrangements, we will not allow more arrangements. So you could have an arrangement for every bill if you need it, but if you break 2 in those 12 months, then you're not eligible at that point for a payment arrangement.
Well, and I asked about month-to-month billing only because other cities that I've lived in have had it that way, and it's a little bit easier for, as a property owner, to be like, oh, look at this, versus, where was that bill? What happened,
Just for your account online, and then you'll open
Well, I
it and
know,
pull it up.
but when I moved here, I was like, wow, that's interesting. It's not every month like other cities.
Yeah.
Um,
No, yeah, it's been every other month since,
forever.
yeah, absolutely.
Washington state law actually mandates that it's at least every other month. And it's cheaper to bill every other month than it is to bill monthly.
Yeah. For our 33,000 accounts, sure.
Well,
All right.
and also just, people get used to that.
Oh,
It's an
absolutely.
educational process in terms of planning ahead or the other things that need to happen, so.
That's fine. I just thought it was interesting. Yeah.
All right. So, collection rights. So, following collection rights and city ordinance, the city of Yakima will assign these accounts to our collection agency. And we are in the final stages of actually setting up that contract with our collection agency. And we're really excited, honestly, with this one. This agency, we're pleased. They really showed that they are interested and really care to actually get the customers out of the financial distress that they are in, which that was really good, when we heard that side aspect when we had our meeting with them. So we're almost there, and again, that's a practice that we will definitely follow at that point.
What percentage of the bill do they keep? I know when I had a business and I had this thing, it was 50%, whatever they collected, they kept 50% of.
The one that we are looking at, it's a 20% fee that they add to their accounts, and it's added on top of whatever our balance is. Yeah. And we met with a couple different agencies. This one's going to work out for many reasons. It's going to work out better, and that one being one of them. The percentage was lower. When payment is made by the customer, they don't pay themselves first, they distribute it. So that was really good, because other agencies pay themselves first, and then you'll get whatever's after that. So, yeah,
That was my experience.
yeah, and this one doesn't seem like it's gonna be like that, so we're really happy with that. Yeah,
Good.
that way everybody gets paid.
Thank you.
Of course. And then, so how it works, and this is both applicable to property owners or tenants, if someone has left an outstanding balance with the city of Yakima, we're not gonna start a new utility account until that account is settled. And how you settle that is pay it all off. It's done, right? We're good. If they are eligible for that payment arrangement, following that criteria where they haven't broken two payment arrangements in 12 months, we can, how it would work, they would pay at least half of what is owing, payment arrangement on the remaining balance, and then deposit up front, and then we can start the new account for them. And this is true for owners and tenants. It's not exclusive to just tenants.
How then, I've talked to some landlords, I guess. How did some of these bills get so drastically out of hand if we shut off after 41 days? Because I've had a few that have been like, yeah, there was like a $3,600 bill, which ended up being like, I don't know, 6 months or whatever. And I'm going, well, 41 days, it should have been turned off. It should not have been 6 months. Like, how does it progress to that point?
So our highest account balances are going to be Nob Hill water ones. We can't shut their water off.
I see.
And they pay Nob Hill. And those quickly, you're going to be with those higher balances, because they can remove garbage cans, which, they haven't been as consistent with removing the garbage cans. Even us, we haven't been as much as we would want to be with our shut off. So, and that's really all, other than pouring concrete on their sewer line, which we're not going to do all that on a Nob Hill account. They're paying their water account, and it's on. So those are, when it comes to higher balances, those are usually going to be our higher balance accounts. I know,
If I may, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mike.
Yeah,
Welcome.
sorry for interrupting. Yeah, this is Mike. And the other thing I want to say is a lot of cities are struggling with this issue because some folks had their bills being paid by others during COVID, and they kind of got out of the habit of paying utility bills. And then when that discontinued, those bills began to grow, and cities had to adjust as well from transitioning where they weren't able it's not a matter of whether they would or not. They were precluded from collecting on these utility accounts during COVID. And so I think some of those larger amounts are reflective of the transition for both the customer and the utility provider that happened sort of while COVID was winding down post-COVID. And that's part also of what we're working to get past as well, as was observed earlier. Some of these accounts haven't been being turned off as quickly, and as a result, bills have been growing. And again, that's a part of this transition that Annabelle has been working through to get all the COVID-related, sort of the old past due bad debts handed off, and let those kind of get worked out. In the meantime, be much more focused on keeping folks current, getting them current, and working with them so that both the city has a good experience with customers who are struggling to pay their bills, and those customers have a good experience getting back on track and keeping those bills current.
Thank
And
you.
it's not again, it's another example of something that's not at all unique to Yakima. We're seeing that all over.
I have a question about Nob Hill. So when people are on the Nob Hill water system, they pay Nob Hill, and then Nob Hill pays the city? No?
That's their water. They get paid. So the customer will pay Nob Hill the water, and then they'll pay us for sewer and garbage.
Okay, got it.
Sometimes they'll pay us.
That was my question, right?
Nob Hill pays us or the
The
customer?
customer. Oh, no, Nob Hill does. And there's a contract in place for like 25 years with them, so.
So is their bill separate then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Two very different entities. I do want to, meet with the people in Nob Hill, and it sounds like they have movement going on with their management to see if we can work on something like, hey, that's great that they paid you, but they're not paying me, like, and I get it, we're under contract, but just to see if we can help us help you, right? Let's meet each other in the middle.
We follow the same schedule of non-payment for the other utilities like garbage or whatever as we do for the water.
Right, ours do, yes. Nob Hill doesn't. My understanding is the minute you're late or the day, they can shut you off the next day. They're private, so they don't do the way we do. 21, 28, they don't follow, yeah, they
But we
don't,
can't shut off sewer.
right,
That would be an interesting process.
yeah, no. So it.
I know,
it makes
we
it
can't
hard.
shut it off. It'd be a very stinky situation.
We could maybe backflush.
Okay, there's ideas.
I don't know if that would work either.
Well, part of
yes,
the problem is the fact that the city in the code says that the city cannot bill for more than 4 months of past due utilities. And it's spelled out there. And when you have the deposit, it kind of makes sense because that deposit is basically 3 months, so the city's protected. But I've seen where it's been allowed to go way beyond that. And then when there's errors made, the same thing applies. You can only go back to the original 4 months. And I realize the city attorney has a different interpretation of that, but the law is very clear, and the state legislator that I referred to this matter, he agrees with my interpretation of it. So the reality is, once 4 months has gone by, the city has no right to go back and say, hey, you owe me money. That's the way our statute is written right now.
That's not what,
That's not what you think.
I'm
I
happy to
understand that.
provide the council with a memo that outlines the legal department's analysis of the ordinance and the state statutes for you, outside of this meeting, if you think that would be helpful for you.
It would be helpful for me.
Yeah, no problem.
So would the council like to see that? Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
So some key insights and considerations, as Mike had mentioned, not being able to shut off during COVID, it definitely created a backlog.
Yeah.
And we're now, addressing it and trying to get that corrected. Addition to that, there are weather restrictions for us to shutting off non-payment accounts. Washington State prohibits all utilities to be, or water service to be shut off during periods of extreme heat. So, and I have to submit a report every year of how many accounts. And so just to avoid that during summer months, we're just going to not shut off anybody. Only because now you're playing, was there a heat advisory that day or was it, I would put it
So
into-
how do you get, I guess, if you're not shutting it off, then they're still racking up debt.
Summer months.
So
Last year, so it barely started in 23, where in 24 we had to submit, what did you guys shut off for 23? So last year was my first one. And it was, okay, what was that date? So you'd have to be tracking, right? Do we shut off today or not? Is there, heat advisory? And one of them, we had dispatched 200, and then I think it like got really hot within the next day or two or something like that. So now bring those back. We can't shut them off anymore, because if we do, then we're, by law, we can't do it. And then if they call us and say, turn it back on, it's hot, we have to go back and turn them back on. So to just avoid it and keep it clean, my thought process is, and I mean, unless I'm told different, but July and August is not to shut off anybody. That way, when those extreme heat warnings are happening, my goal ideally would be that customers who are behind would only be behind those months. So that's kind of what my focus is.
yeah, but I mean, at that point, you're still, I mean, when you're at shut off, you're at 41 days. So, and then if you're not shutting it off for another additional 2 months, you're now at whatever,
Right.
100 and something days.
100 and something days.
It
That's
doesn't,
a bigger debt.
Yeah, they,
It's interesting. I didn't know that
okay,
about
you know,
Washington State.
they aren't paying the bill for that 2 months, let's say, or for the additional 2 months. But it doesn't change their indebtedness.
Right. And that's the thing, that even if they only pay the 4 months to get restored, that debt is still there. It's not going away, and it is still something that we can still collect on. Yeah. We are filling, actually, as of Monday, coming Monday, all positions that I have will be filled. So, yeah, and that, thank you. So,
Might be the only department.
probably, so don't say it too loud, let me knock on wood, because, so my goal with that is that, we're not, the delinquent shut-offs, they're gonna be stabilized. Right now, they've kind of been, we dispatch a few, then something comes up, and the biggest one has been staffing. I usually have 3 field reps outside, so 3 trucks that are running, working. Since September, I've been down to 2. So, and with other stuff that we have to take care of, the delinquents, unfortunately, are the ones that kind of get bumped to the bottom, and, because there's other pressing stuff for us to continue the billing functions that we're doing. So being fully staffed, with the exception of summer months, we will consistently work on delinquent shut-offs.
So if you can't shut off water, can you still take the garbage can?
Yeah. Refuse can definitely do that. Yeah, it's out of a different department, but
I'm just trying to
absolutely.
think of
Yeah,
mitigating
right, and
debt.
something, yeah. Oh, yeah. Give me ideas, because I constantly, trying to.
I don't know if that's
just
a
to get it.
policy we need to make, but that would be,
I think we would want to check with the refuse manager and see what their current policy is, and then we can bring that back to the council and provide that to you, and have Mr. Bradburn come in and talk to you about that specifically.
Thank you, yeah. So yeah, with this consistency, my hope is that, past due accounts will decrease in both numbers and the amounts that are past due. Out of those 870 or 770, whatever it was that I checked this morning, they were at the 1150 mark, meaning I don't have accounts that I can shut off that owe more than $1,100, 1150, which I know it's still a high number, but when you were talking accounts at 3,000, 5,000, those were, yeah.
Those were a lot of COVID accounts.
COVID, just different stuff. Sometimes customers had a leak the previous bill, and they're trying to get that caught up. So that's a slide that showed that, over 200 accounts were current, like the current bill. That doesn't mean that they're not going to pay it by the end of the week, right? They're not, with our shut-offs, and again, as slowly as we're moving with them, it might give them that chance to pay it off, and they don't get shut
do
off.
we alert, I think you have alerted property owners when you sense there's a leak. I think I've received one of those actually at my church.
We
that I
catch it,
work at.
absolutely.
Yeah, and there was. But is there a way for our system to actually alert them sooner than the bill?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's called Eye on Water. And even if you have a smartphone, you can download the app and register that account on there. Because we're going to see it when we're working on your bill every 2 months. So you're going to catch it way sooner than we would.
Yeah.
As soon as, customers are like, well, why didn't you tell me? We don't monitor everybody's account, but you can register and stay on top of it and monitor it, because it'll actually, you can set, like, if you're using 150 gallons and one day you use 500, it'll alert you. or if it's running consistent. I mean,
And that's on our website?
yeah, it's on our website. So if you go to the utilities website, I have the link right there where to find it. Mhm.
And that's an app you can put on your phone.
And it's an app you can have on your phone, which is really nice, yeah.
All the landlords should know that. That's really good.
Yes.
Yeah, no, really.
If you don't know it.
See, and it goes to, we have tools available, call us and ask us, and we'll tell you with a smile.
I think it would be, when we have a situation where the landlords own the land, but tenants use the water, there's a separation of responsibilities. I think as much as information as we can give to the landlords up front without them asking about it.
Absolutely.
As an option, would be helpful.
The thing with that, I mean, it's all on our website. Properties sell all day long, so we really can't keep on top of who is the property owner now. So you could have one property or landlord that, fully informed, and now he sold 10 properties to 10 different people, and we don't know that until those 10 people like, hey, I'm the new owner and I'm either gonna rent it or I'm gonna live there. But unless they're telling us, like we train our staff like, hey, even if it sounds like you're giving them a lot of information, give it to them, because at least if they hear a couple of words that later, like, oh, they mentioned something, it'll prompt them to want to ask if they don't remember all the specifics, right?
Or you could have a sheet with toolkits on it, that when you have a landlord that fills out an authorization, they're automatically given one or sent one, so they have that information. Yeah.
Not UBROF, okay, yeah, because they could get a copy of it as well, and we can definitely add that on there, yeah.
Thank you.
So if, I haven't done this for several years, so I don't know if it might have changed, but the way the system was set up, I could get my address. But if I had a rental property and I wanted to monitor that, there wasn't any way to do that. Is there a way to do that now?
And it was in your account?
Yeah.
It was the tenant's account.
It was a tenant, yeah, they
The way
would,
the system was set up, you could only monitor one. The last time I checked, like I say, it's
was being used.
been a couple of years. But when you have several and you want to monitor all of them, is there a way to do that?
And these are all being your tenants' accounts, right? If you register them, they can't register them, so it can be registered once.
If you have a multi-unit property.
Okay.
The
That'd be in
property
your name,
owner has the account, but he still has multiple different accounts. And the only way I've been able to see to do it was just one account. So I'm wondering, is there a way, if I have 5 accounts because I have rental properties, can I get that report, Eyes on Water report for all 5?
Right, so when you log in, it'll ask you, like, you can link other accounts that you have. So if the other accounts are in your name, you should be able to link them, and which one do you want to view when you log? And reason I say that, when I first started and I registered my mom's account, when I would log in, I'm like, why is it showing me 2 accounts? And it was showing my mom's, and it's like, which one do you want to look at? And so I would select, mine for my house, because but then she wanted to monitor hers, so I unlinked it from my account so she can register hers.
I have noticed the same thing with paying the bill, that you can do up to 10 accounts
Yep.
at one time instead of, when a year ago, it was every single account you had to start over again.
Right, yeah,
So that has been a nice.
yeah, Paymentus, I agree.
Is there a limit to how many that you can link to one account?
With one email, it would be 10 accounts that you could link.
I mean, for the water
But I am
monitor.
not sure how many. I know the payment one is 10. I can look at how many.
Yeah, that'd be good to know. Okay, that's very helpful. Especially in our valley where we're limited with water. We don't need leaks,
Yeah. Yeah. That was all I had. Okay, thank you.
Oh, we're
Like,
done.
we're done.
There's one more thing I wanted to ask
Yes, please.
about. I've seen this happen several times, including recently. Every month, you get a bill, or the meter sends in a report for the account. What about the accounts that are not tied to a name? So the tenant moves, shuts the account off, and then it just stays on. How do you know, short of the property owner coming in and transferring it to their name, how do you know that that meter is still running and dispensing water even though it's not tied to an account?
So if the tenant moved out and they requested to close their account, or they didn't request?
No,
We don't-
they move.
We haven't, no way of knowing if the property is vacant or not.
The system has no way of, when you get the billing report, you've got all these meters, and they're tied to a name, and it shows the water, and it computes a bill, right? So what do you do with the meters that show that water's been
Like
used?
zero usage?
And it submits, it prepares a bill, but there's nobody to send it to. What do you do?
So if there's
Do you
a
even
property that was
monitor
sitting
that?
vacant,
Vacant. So if it's vacant, if there's an open account, right, so the account was open and the tenant up and left didn't say anything. We don't know. The bill is gonna bill you, it has two parts to it. It bills us for ready to serve, meaning services are on, ready for us to use them, and it bills consumption. So if the house is vacant, then it's not gonna bill any consumption, it's just gonna bill the ready to serve. And we wouldn't know until they called us and said, hey, I moved out, or the landlord, but we would have no way of knowing if someone's in the property or not.
There's a disconnect here somewhere, because I know that you have gone back and checked meters and said, I have the meter usage, you owe the money for it.
Right, so we can still, so even, okay, so then that's a little bit different, right? Saying the account's closed then?
Well,
Or-
the account isn't, if the meter, every meter ideally should be tied to a name and an account.
Right, if there's an account
And it
open.
generates a bill and sends it. And then, what happens when there is a meter that's using water and it's
Not linked to an account.
incurring the expense for the city, but you don't have anybody to bill for the service? What do you do?
If the account was open, it would be billing that account holder. Now, it happens where we turn the meter off and someone turns it back on and they're using water. It keeps a read, right? It has a dial. So even though I'm not able to see it in the eye on water that there's usage, I send my field rep out there. We keep record of what was the read, what was that meter, what was it reading at when the account closed. Well, 6 months later, now the read is this much more higher, so now we know that there's been usage at that property. And that's when we're gonna look into, was it a tenant? And if then not, then it goes back, okay, the owner, who was at that property using water?
So what you're saying then is if the meter is not tied to an account, you have no idea, short of going out there and looking at the meter.
Correct.
But they all report electronically. Are you telling me that that meter ceases to send an electronic report to your office?
If there's not an open account, it's not gonna send any information anywhere.
That is interesting.
It happens a lot
So we
Then-
just give away
so-
the service forever, and then when they
until
come
we catch
in,
it.
you just start from there and keep going.
So like right
Or
now,
do you try to go
notice-
back and bill for the past usage?
So wouldn't you notice, though, in the monthly or bi-monthly reading of the account, if it's like, say, $210 or plus or minus $10, $15 a month or every 2 months, and all of a sudden it goes down to $15, that should be an indicator. So, so even if it's low, you send a notice, which means that the landlord is still gonna get the notice.
so, okay, let's take it back. Is this within an open account or no account? Because there'd be two different things. So if there's an open account, even if there is no usage, it's still gonna bill that ready to serve, which water, sewer, garbage is about 126 every 2 months.
but who's it billed to?
Well, if there's an open account, it's billing whoever that account was
I
open
mean,
to.
if there's no open
Then
account,
it's not billing anybody.
Yeah,
It's
but
not recording that
only
usage
open if
anywhere.
they
I
tell
mean,
you it's closed.
I mean, they're ready to serve.
So the tenant leaves, gives no notice.
account's opened.
Right, account is open.
Okay.
And so it goes the 21 days, whatever. So at the 21 day or 28 point, the landlord is going to get a bill to indicate that the person has moved because it's down low, so they will know.
We still don't know that the person moved, right? So by the 28th
But
day, the landlord.
then can tell you.
Right, oh yeah, and if they come in and tell us, hey, they left, shut the water off, we'll shut it off, right? A lot of times landlords will be like, hey, yeah, they left, shut it off. And then we get a call, I'm still here. So we turn it back on, right? I mean, we don't shut water as means of eviction. So if they're telling us they're still there, we're gonna open it back up until they request to close it. Now, to answer your question, okay, at 28 days, the landlord knows. If he didn't know that the tenant left, they're gonna receive that notice. That would prompt them to call the tenant or us, but even calling us, we're not gonna know that the tenant's gone. The bill, it looks like there's no usage, but that doesn't mean, what if they were on vacation? What if they were gone? It's not uncommon for customers to receive bills with no usage, meaning they left the services on for whatever be their reasons, and there was no
Yeah, they're
usage.
out of
bill.
town.
Exactly, and it happens a lot. Now, If an account was closed and there is no open account and someone turned the meter back on themselves or whoever turned it back on, it's not linked to an account, we're not able to see that anywhere unless my meter reader goes out there, physically looks at the meter and looks at the read that it's at. And then they can see if the meter's on or,
Like
and
it's
turn it
still
off.
water.
Yeah, I mean, we'll catch it eventually.
Well,
Especially-
how would you catch it? That's the question.
So-
In other words, what you're saying is, we've got, how many? 100, 1,000 meters sitting out there that aren't assigned to an account right now. Anybody could go turn that on and incur bills for the city, and they wouldn't have to pay because you have no way of knowing that they're using water and it isn't tied to an account.
Okay, so I mean, that's a little bit different, right, than my billing with the collection stream, because now you're asking an account that's not even open, so it's not following any collection stream, right? So at that point, we would take it on a case-by-case, account-by-account. Right now, we are working on a big project. Our meter compartments have 3 sections to them, and we're working on the one that, I'm replacing, the one that sends the actual reads, so we don't have to go look at the meter physically. So it's called the meter head that they're exchanging. With doing that, water has come across, because it's the water department that's doing it, they've come across multiple properties where the meter's on, and they've had a lot of usage for years. No account has been open for years. We're taking those one by one, yeah. So to answer your question, somebody is gonna be billed for that service that's being used. And we're just gonna take it on an account by account.
Unless there's somebody actually living there, though, there would be no benefit if there's somebody turning the meter on.
Right, unless they're actually using it.
I believe turning on a meter without going through the proper channels is actually a criminal offense. You can go to jail for that. So I just want to put that out there, that there are some other enforcement methods other than through the utility services, that if people are out unlawfully re-turning on meters in violation of the code, that could be deemed a criminal offense, which is jailable.
You're not even supposed to turn them off.
No.
Correct, you're not supposed to touch them.
Only
The
city
city's supposed to
employees,
do it.
yeah.
I wouldn't know how to do it anyway.
There's spiders, I don't even want to.
Well, I mean, the thing that's bothering me is we're sitting here saying that we have meters that we can tell, if I can tell, because the meter's running all the time, I can look it up on my computer.
Okay,
And it's tied to my name, so I can look at it. But you're telling me that if there isn't a name that it's tied to, you have no way of looking at that meter and seeing that it is metering water.
Not until they put this fancy.
right, exactly, not until we have those in. But even then, the system that we use, if there is no open account linked to the meter, it's not gonna show any of the usage online.
Does the water department have a way to monitor usage?
We show them, we're the ones that usually, yeah.
So what happens a lot of times is water departments do indeed try and track down water, what they call water loss. And water loss can occur a variety of ways. Could be a break in their own pipe before it gets to a customer. Could be customers that have turned on meters, that shouldn't have. Could be a variety of things. But water loss is an issue that is, the scale's pretty large. So it's not a customer by customer issue. I mean, if you have a customer that's turned on a water meter, it wouldn't be a blip on their radar screen. But the water loss in most large systems like the cities would actually be a fairly significant issue, and it is something that water systems do monitor. And as Annabelle said, one of the reasons, as they're going out and touching all these meters is to reconnect with them in the sense of making sure that if some of the water loss is coming through meters that are running and there's no account, that we get those tracked down. But that is an issue, and it exists in all these systems, especially larger ones like this, and it comes from a variety of causes.
So if you find that you had a water loss issue, and then say I move into that property and I open up an account, am I responsible for that water use? No, just the city is. We just eat it on the chin.
But for water loss, Mike, is that specific to like leaks or?
Both.
Okay.
It's all of the above, right? So what happens is they look and see how much water are they pulling into the system, and how much are they billing for, and there's a difference, and that difference is the loss, and so it comes from a variety of things: the leaks, the accounts where there's consumption but there's no account, as was mentioned, and there are it's not unusual unfortunately, for people to go out and turn their water back on after the city or whomever has turned it off. And they're, a tenant and operating in bad faith. So it comes from a variety of causes.
I'm just trying, so I guess we just eat it.
Yes, I'm afraid that's true, and that's one of the reasons.
Or drink it, I guess.
Or drink it.
It's also something that gets looked at by the auditors to make sure that it's not outside of what they would characterize as the norm for the size of the system. So during each year's audit, they also look at if the city has problems, if you will, that are outside the normal with respect to water loss.
Interesting. I wonder how much water loss we have.
That might be an interesting question. We'll have to work with our
$9
friends in
million
the water department to find out.
By any chance? I like where you're going with this.
Collect that.
We found the budget problem.
Right, done.
There you go.
Well, the one thing that I want to commend you on is that this policy that you laid out tonight is far, far better than what was presented a few months ago when we met with a bunch of landlords. And I think that's a critical part of the thing. The policy, our municipal code doesn't answer all the questions that need to be answered. And so having a good policy that details how to handle these different situations correctly is important.
Maybe the Landlords Association would like to have one or two visits from Annabelle to talk to them about the policies and how it works.
We have had a couple.
Okay.
We had some with James Dean. I think we've only had one with you.
The only one, yeah.
I think it was memorable, right?
She's doing great.
Yes.
Yeah, I would echo that. It's an art form, right? There's a lot of gray area because with that many customers and that much activity, it takes a lot of diligence to stay on top of it and to stay on top of it and work proactively to keep a pleasant customer service environment. Yes. And the team there under Annabelle's leadership, I think, does a very nice job with that.
Yes.
So one more question.
I'm gonna elbow.
My private utility just sent me a bill with a 25% tax on it, city tax. And I know that the city council did not approve that increase. Did you guys increase your taxes by 5%?
No, we don't have taxes on any of our bills.
Well, he says it's included in the bill though, so when
Right.
we change the bill, it changes your water rates.
Right, so, go ahead, Mike.
Councilman, that's a common problem with some of the outside utilities, especially telecommunications has been notorious for adding to the bills and calling it a city tax. And then they come to the city and say, why are you taxing me 25%? And of course, we end up in the middle because they have to decide whether they're going to trust the city telling the truth or their telecommunications or whatever other providers telling the truth. There are a variety of taxes that do get added to some utility bills, but it's not uncommon for utility purveyors to have erroneous tax rates on their bills, and there's no connection to what they collect on your bill and what they pay us because they're fundamentally two different systems within these large utilities. It's a problem.
You gotta tell them. Messed up.
The issue's not dead.
All right.
I know that we increased the city or the stormwater tax from 15 to 20 to make them both the same.
Yes.
But we did not increase the city utility tax to 25, or I mean, the utility tax to 25%. It should still be at 20. I'll do some more investigating on that.
All right, we'll look forward to it, Rick.
I look forward to it.
I'm gonna call you utility man.
All right. All right.
Any other
Any
questions
other
or comments,
questions?
council?
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for
Thank
your
you
time.
for being here, Annabelle. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
While we're on this subject, I would like to propose a resolution.
Not at this point.
They said that we could at the meeting if we were discussing this item.
We haven't had a chance to look at a resolution.
So you can
Well, I
direct
wanna-
staff.
You're right, direct staff to what I
Because it
want
relates to
happen.
the topic we're talking about. We could direct staff to look at a resolution for something. Is that correct?
If it has to do with the utility billing collection stream.
Yes.
because there won't be a final decision on the actual resolution tonight.
Right,
No,
yeah.
I just want to get the process started.
Making a motion to start the process of a resolution, you can do that.
Okay. So the issue that I'm concerned about is Yakima Municipal Code 7.50.080, number G, and the city reserves the right to collect delinquent tenant accounts from the property owner. These delinquent accounts may be sent to collection agency in the owner's name. The fact that we collect deposits from non-owner customers and they are supposed to pay it and it should be shut off if they don't pay it really makes it where this shouldn't even be relevant. So I would direct city staff to eliminate the liability of property owners for non-property owner customer accounts. Does that make sense?
Is this a resolution, or are you making a motion for?
I want to direct staff to
yes.
prepare the documents to eliminate owners from any liability for non-property owner utility customer accounts.
Is that a resolution?
That's
No,
my
it would be a-
proposal.
It would be a motion to direct staff to work on that.
May I add something? I think that there might be some background information that the council would like before making a decision on that. Now, we can bring that back at the same time, but I think that there's some data and some numbers and some information about collections that the council might want to see before making a final decision on removing all liability for property owners for their utility bills. If there's a landlord tenant. But I just think that there might be some additional information that both utilities and the legal department can provide you before making that decision. And again, we can provide it at the time you're evaluating the resolution, but I think that it's utility collections is complicated. MRSC has a lot of information on it. I assume you'll want to know kind of the financial consequences of such an action, possible financial consequences. So we can provide that information before you evaluate whether you want us to draft a resolution, or in this case, an ordinance, or concurrent with doing it.
So you would like to provide the information before we make the decision to proceed?
Yes.
I would leave that up to the council about whether you want the information
That's what I
before.
was just asking council, is do you want to move ahead with, to directing staff to a resolution this evening and receive the information the staff might have at the same time, or would you like to receive the information prior to that?
I would like to see prior.
I mean, I'm okay with walking and chewing gum at the same time.
Yeah, me too.
But, you know, I mean, I also understand the speed of government, and so it, you know, keeps kicking the ball down the field. So I'm not opposed to seeing both, even in the same meeting, one after the other. I mean, we've done that on a lot of subjects in the past. We're going to have a study on this, and then we're going to do a resolution and an ordinance on what we just talked about, or not. So I'm okay with doing both at the same meeting. I still have no idea what the resolution even all completely entails, so it would give me some time to understand that. But
Well, is there a possibility that you could present information to staff in a document that we can be reading ahead of time before we get to the next step?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we can do a memo that outlines kind of what other communities are doing, and other information associated with utilities collections with regards to landlord-tenant situations for you ahead of time. That's not a problem. If we're going to do that, though, I would ask that this don't go on the next council agenda next week, but maybe give us a little time to put that information together, get it to you to read ahead of time before you look at anything at a council meeting, and then look at it. So maybe a couple extra weeks rather than the next business meeting.
So it would be
can I see that, Rick?
it would be, what is the date on the next the second business meeting out?
I think the second business meeting out at this point, it's like the second, I would ask for it to be the second one in May, because there's a business meeting next week. And then, yeah, if it could be the second business meeting in May, we can get you that information.
All right, so the motion would be then to direct staff to work on a resolution, but in the meantime, we'll be prepared to discuss it at the second meeting in May. Would that be all right with you?
Yeah, that we clarify the issue
Okay.
of property owner liability for non-property owner customer accounts. The way that I look at it in effect is if you were renting a house from me and you went and bought a car and then you parked it on my property because that's where you live as a renter, and then you don't make your car payments, can the car dealer that gave you that car loan come and make the property owner
Well, we're
responsible?
kind of getting into the discussion
Yes, we
of
are.
the final effect of a motion, so if you would read your motion again and ask for that resolution to come the second meeting in May.
I move that in the second meeting in May that we direct staff to prepare a report on the correct way to define the rights or the obligations of non-property owner customers compared to property owners in regard to paying utility bills.
Okay.
Does that work?
I have no idea.
So are you asking for an ordinance, you're asking the
I'm
council?
not asking for an ordinance. I want the information now so that we can have a discussion about the issue, and then we can go from there to vote on whether to do it or not. Does that make sense?
So you are going to,
You want both.
I want both ultimately, but I'm willing to settle for just the fact that I want to talk about.
okay, what was your original motion, Mr. Glenn? What was your original motion?
I move that we
Okay, so that by this,
reconsider Yakima Municipal Code 7.50.080, number G, to discuss whether to eliminate that collection option
so
for
you're
the
not
city.
asking for an ordinance or a resolution right now, you're asking for a discussion
Right,
on the second business meeting in May.
yes.
So that's the motion. Do we have a second?
Thank you, Mayor. What'd
We
you
have a
ask?
second?
Oh.
We need a second on the motion, or it dies.
Yeah, sure, I'll second it.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Councilman Glenn and a second by Councilman Roy to direct the city to bring a discussion to the council on the second business meeting in May. What he said.
That.
Well, it's not exactly a motion form.
We want to discuss whether.
Whether or not the city can reserve the right to collect delinquent tenant accounts from the property owner. These delinquent accounts can be set on a collection agency in the owner's name, and this is ordinance 2006-07-516-2006.
I'll need that.
We'll pass it down.
Yeah.
This
All right.
This has no effect on the property owner's obligation to pay the
Okay,
bill
we're gonna
that
get
he
into
incurs.
discussion that night.
It's not really a
We're
motion.
just making a motion to bring this discussion to council with full information, okay?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second that I just read. And all of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, council.
This
We'll
is-
look forward to the lively discussion, Mr. Glenn, we really will.
To have a
Have a
discussion.
good one.
All right, then we're going to move on to item D, which is an ordinance amending the City of Yakima Municipal Codes, Section 950220, long-term parking permits. Our city attorney, Cheryl Watkins, is going to present.
Well, I don't have a PowerPoint, so it should go slightly faster. So in
I thought you
front
were gonna
of,
say 30 slides.
I have 68 slides. No, this is, as you requested, a proposed amendment to the long-term parking permit ordinance section. When we went through it, we are proposing a few more changes, so I'd just like to go through it. The first change is what you requested, adding language that the city manager is authorized to issue additional parking permits over the 60% amount if after explanation by an applicant and evaluation, the city manager deems it appropriate to do so. That's the flexibility we talked about at the last meeting. So going through it under subsection 6, we wanted to make clear that permits can only be purchased on an annual, semi-annual, or quarterly basis. That's what our code says, but this just says it in the beginning sentence, so you don't have to like search for it anyplace. In section 7, the strikeout language seemed a little confusing, so I just said that basically if you buy a permit in February and you want a quarterly permit, you pay February and March, and then the next quarter starts over. So you don't have to pay for January, but you also don't get 3 months. You get the rest of that quarter, and then you pay for the next quarter, so that we're keeping everyone on the same schedule.
Right.
And then last really is number 13, which outlines when permits can be revoked or suspended. At the last meeting, we talked about people possibly not being accurate as to matters on their application. And so if we wanted to make it clear to people that if you're in violation of any of the application rules, if you are using your permit on an unregistered vehicle or any of those other things, that the city has the authority to revoke or suspend your permit, and you're not entitled to a refund of any of the money.
Right.
So we added that so that it was clear. So I know that was a little more than what you asked for, but while we were in there, we thought maybe we would add those things since there were some concerns brought up. I would also say that we've looked at the parking permit application online. We think there are a couple changes we can make to make it more friendly, and we are planning on having some internal meetings and going through it ourselves about it. Now, that's kind of a long-term plan, so that won't change immediately, but we are looking at that and have heard your concerns about the process.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't just send them back their money if we had to revoke something?
Well, the revocation section it basically says that you have applied for a permit, providing us information that you claim is accurate, and then you're using it in a way that does not comply with our ordinances. So it's kind of like a willful violation. So we kind of figured instead of having to spend the administrative money to send you a check for the remaining, and is it going to be prorated by day? Is it going to be prorated by month?
Prorated by zero.
So that's a proposal, but if you want, we can say that you can get any full month back. Anyone who cancels a permit partway through can get full months back, so there's the ability to do that. So if you want to change that to if you get your permit suspended or revoked by the city, that you could get any full months back, we could change that if you would like, but it's hard if it's a mid-month situation.
No.
No.
No, thank you.
I must be in the minority, it's fine. I won't fight that battle.
No more parking.
No, I don't want to talk about parking ever again.
So is this an issue that is ready for us to vote on tonight, or?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So I would move to pass the ordinance.
I second.
So we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Brown and a second by Councilman Decio to pass. Would you read the ordinance for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is an ordinance amending the City of Yakima Municipal Code Section 9.50.220, long-term parking permits.
Thank you. So having heard the ordinance, right, we have a motion and a second?
Yeah, I just want everyone at home to realize this is a lot of house cleaning. There's no other parking changes that are happening in this ordinance for the news media and the paper and all of the people at home. This is like house cleaning. It was really giving her some authority to add some more parking permits. So,
Right.
It's better.
And
yes.
clarifying language is very helpful.
Doesn't change anything for the businesses, streamlines things, cleans it up.
Thank you. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Byrd?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Byers?
Yes.
Decio?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Herrera?
Yes.
Roy?
Yes.
All right, the motion is 7-0 and the ordinance passes. Thank you, council. That was the shortest part of the evening. This is a study session, so there's no other new business tonight. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn to the next council regular meeting on April 15th, tax day at 5:30 PM in City Hall here.
I second.
So we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Brown and a second by Councilman Decio to adjourn to the next city council regular meeting on April 15th, which is tax day, at 5:30 PM here at City Hall. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we are adjourned. Thank you, council. Good job.